Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Tonight is Tuesday, October 16th. Welcome to the Foxborough Board of Selectmen meeting. I'll go over the agenda briefly. At 7 o'clock, we'll start off with citizens' input. We've asked at 7:05 Town Council, Mr. Gellerman, to come in to talk about the open meeting law with respect to the stadium negotiating Board of Selectmen and committee. At 7:15, we have a special guest in Vensis for a board's presentation. I should say a public presentation. At 7:30, we do have a public hearing, an application for the MIAA, the Massachusetts Athletic Association. Thank you. At 7:45, a second public hearing on a liquor license violation of Fusion 5 on 105 Washington Street. At 8:15, another public hearing, an application for a wine and malt restaurant license for Asian Ginger, formerly the Friendly's Restaurant at 70 Central Street. At 8:30, we're going to have a discussion on the health care changes per the new legislation that just went through. 9 o'clock was going to have a discussion with the town manager on setting the date for a special town meeting and the warrant closing date. 9:10, chairman's update, and at 9:20, we'll enter into executive session to discuss real property negotiations, and we have a few action item lists. So, Linda, you want to lead us in the pledge allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. If anyone's here for citizens' input, we just ask that you come up to the microphone and introduce yourself, name and address for the record.
I'll be brief, Mark. Believe me. I have some handouts to give you, and I won't get into them in depth. They're many pages. They're basically on the town hall issue. I hope you read them. There are 6 recommendations that my ad hoc committee is making relative to the program. The most important is we have never had a full exposure in front of the public of all of the options that are available. We also are hearing from the public everywhere I go, well, what does the plan look like? They saw it 18 months ago. They haven't seen it since. They're wondering what the package is now, how we're going to proceed. An advisory last year spoke about the problem with the surplus funds. They didn't want to get into this again. If you look at the time frame from the December 11th town meeting, you won't have bids by the annual town meeting. Kevin reported to AdCom, we're coming back with an estimate. We've had estimates on the fire and police. That went from 10 to 15 million. We had estimates on the high school. It went from 19 to 13. Where are we on this? I think we need a general discussion, a general open discussion relative to all of the options, and there are many of them. You have killed Plan A. Plan B is the only option, 8 million or nothing. But that isn't really the only option. It is not the most cost-effective by 3 million, and it's not the most space-efficient by some 2,000 square feet of area within the building. The material I'll be giving you as a takeoff, space by space, area by area, and compares the plans. So I'll leave it at this evening, because I know Mark wants to go and listen to the debate. We can debate here, you know. But I'll give you these. I hope you will look at them. Most of you have my phone number. Give me a call. I'd be happy to discuss it with you individually or collectively. I thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Anyone else for under citizens' input?
Two things here.
And Dick, if you're around, we are going to talk about the different warrant article dates that are coming up for town meeting, and then hopefully we'll set the schedule for the individual warrant articles to start coming in front of the board. So that particular one will be discussed then.
Oh, just one last point. Sorry, Mike. There is noise out there again with the seniors voting. And the question is, could we, since you haven't officially set a date, move it to a Saturday, as you did discuss one day last year for about 5 minutes? The question is, there are many seniors that can't drive and don't drive at night. Either they don't have wheels or they're public safety issues, and they want to vote. Just a
Okay,
thought.
we talk about that later in the evening. And anyone else for citizens' input? All right, you want to come to the table, Dick? So this is a discussion, so the board knows, on the stadium negotiating board that was put together, a committee, and how it relates to the open meeting law.
Thanks. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You too.
Yeah, thank you. Good time. As the negotiating committee that you appointed grew and expanded and morphed and changed, we discussed with the board and had concerns that we may have. The question is whether or not during that process we've created a subcommittee which would be subject to the open meeting law and all the other provisions applicable to public bodies. I talked about the issue with Kevin, and we thought the safest approach would be to discuss the matter with the Attorney General to make sure that whatever we did was something that they could support. I fortunately was able this afternoon to talk with the the Assistant Attorney General to whom the issue has been forwarded, and based on that conversation, it's my recommendation that we do the following: that the board rescind your vote creating the committee that the group that was appointed. The reason for that is that once you get above, once you get to two or more persons, and it's the selectman that's doing the creation of the committee, the argument could be made that that action itself creates a subcommittee of this board, and even when the limitations are imposed upon that I wanted to impose, not reporting, not issuing advisory opinions, not having any authority to enter into agreements, one can still make the argument that that group is nevertheless a subcommittee. We can get to the same place if you were to rescind your vote and appoint one person as the negotiating person for the town on these issues. That person should not be a selectman, because a member of the board appointed by the board who would, and it's your board at the end of the day that has the authority to enter into any agreement if we reach it, that would not be advisable. The person that you appoint certainly has the power to then that person select such other members of the town as he needs in order to help with the negotiations. Frankly, it gets to the same place. If you appoint, and my recommendation is you appoint the town manager, he understands your wishes. I understand your wishes. If we format the group that way, it will look the same. It will actually function the same. But with that, those persons can report back. That won't be a problem. That will not be a subcommittee. That group will continue not to have the authority to enter into agreements. It'll be a negotiating group only. It sounds like form over substance, but it solves the problem. So that's my recommendation, that I've drafted something if you want to see it, that you rescind your vote, that you appoint one person. That person should understand what your wishes are. And that group that negotiates will not have the authority to enter into agreements, will report back to this board, will report to the water and sewer commissioners of their interest, report to the planning board. And when that group does report back to you, or individuals in that group reports back to you, while those discussions are subject to the open meeting law, the meetings of the person you appoint and those persons that help them will not be subject to the open meeting law.
James.
Yeah, let me just give it just a couple quick thoughts first, Mark. Just so that people at home know where this is coming from. It's an incredibly frustrating process, not because anyone's done anything wrong. It's that we're trying to negotiate on the open body, public body, with a company that's private, and we just can't talk amongst ourselves. So we went in that direction. So it's a complicated process, and the fact that the new revised open meeting laws came into effect, I think we're being asked you to look at this because we're being cautious that we're going in the right direction, so we don't go too far and then find out we did something to the detriment of the process. I don't know if we want to vote on this tonight or just take it under advisement, but let's talk about it with the board, because this is yet another decision that's going to start to dictate a process. And I'm hearing this for the first time tonight, so let's discuss it amongst ourselves and see where we go. Mark?
No disrespect, I get a better idea. Why don't we just do an open session in front of the board completely? What's wrong with this whole board being part of the whole process, with the public being part of the whole process? I don't see anything until there's a point where you start talking about signage or whole, that real property, whatever. What's the difference?
Mark, frankly, and I understand the frustration in government of wanting to serve the public interest in open session. Frankly, it's been my experience that it's very hard to conduct a negotiation under those circumstances. I don't know how you can, as a board, express your bottom line, what you want, without doing it in private. That's as simple as that. There will come times during negotiations where there'll be discussion of what you're willing to accept and what you're not. The board needs to talk about that amongst itself. You need to give your negotiating team that information. You need to do it so that the person with whom the party with whom you're negotiating doesn't know it, Mark, and you can't do that openly. And that's just the nature of the beast. It's a real problem. I get it. It's a real problem in government, in town government. So I'm all for having as much in open session. Nothing that I've suggested precludes you from doing that, but you need to have somebody negotiate and have the ability to do it privately. It's just the nature of it.
Well, I understand the laws have changed somewhat.
It's good.
Back in '07, there was a selectmen negotiating team with the town manager at the time, strong town manager. What has changed in the laws exactly that?
Well, I don't know that there has been a change in the law. I don't know how that group was constituted, and you could very well have just not been challenged on it. I just don't know. I'm telling you today, the safest way to do it is the way I'm telling you to do it. Simply because you don't get challenged doesn't mean there wasn't something wrong.
And I don't want to pick people in a circle, but if you guys want to have an open dialogue,
Mark,
feel free to speak.
I thought back in '07 it really was negotiated in open session until there came a point where there was a threat of litigation towards the end of it, and then it went into closed, no?
No, it was...
Because I remember a couple of
it was
times having to stand outside during an executive session, and that was the reason given.
Selectman Hickey and the town manager negotiated with the craft group at the stadium, to the best of my recollection, and then reported back to the board in executive session. Then we voted. And is that how you remember it, Dick? You were here.
So that it's clear that much of your discussions, much of this board's discussion, not all of it, but much of this board's discussions about what you're going to do can be in open session, but the negotiations themselves ought to be carried out by, my suggestion is Kevin, the team he appoints. He knows what you want to do. And whatever is appropriate for public session by this board, you can certainly continue to do that.
Dick, just a question. This letter that was written to the Attorney General on the 12th,
Yes.
are they going to respond in writing?
Well, they will, but the person who will be doing that will give us a general response, but that's who I spoke with today, and
Oh, so
this is in response to my letter. My conversation today was in response to that letter, yes.
And so, what brought all this up? Who asked this question?
I did.
Who instructed you to?
I had a number of board members that had called or written me about if the subcommittee was under the open meeting law. And I couldn't answer that question. So Dick and I talked, actually that happened when you were on vacation. So I talked to Cindy Amara. Cindy wasn't sure and really preferred to wait till Dick came back. So Dick started looking at this last week to try to figure out, is this committee under the open meeting law or not? Reason being, we weren't treating it as such. And so if it was, you don't want to negotiate and have a continuing open meeting law violation, which then somebody complains about, and we all have egg on our face. So as soon as I got the first question, Dick and I started talking. We canceled the negotiations tonight at 5 o'clock until you had a chance, for Dick to talk to the AG, talk to you, have you permutate this and decide what you want to do going forward. So,
Also, Mark, when I was at the last time meeting with you, I was concerned about it. You may not recall, and maybe I didn't mention it out loud, but I went back to my notes.
I think Lorraine also mentioned it, and I was also, intrigued by the question. But
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely concerned about it, and part of it is it's not just because a second selectman was appointed to join it. It's the approach that's being taken that dictates that, and that's what started concerning me. And I don't quite understand, though, how having a negotiator who then appoints potentially the same people does not invoke the open meeting law again.
And the answer is because the person who creates the group to talk is not the appointing authority. It's not a public body. Kevin's not a public body. Therefore, his creation of a team to help him doesn't create a subcommittee because he's not a committee. When you do it, you're a committee. When you appoint persons, you're creating a subcommittee. That's the difference.
so Claire,
Isn't it our purpose, though, that what we're doing as... It's like I think he's close enough to the Board of Selectmen. It's hard for me to understand the separation between, or how this no longer becomes work of the Board of Selectmen.
It is public work. That's not different.
Right.
What's different is the entity that's creating the group to do the negotiation. When it's created by a public body, it's a subcommittee of the public body. When it's created by a person who's not a public body, it's not a subcommittee. You're a committee, he isn't. That's the law. It is public work, and it's doing public business. No question
for
about it.
clarification, you're saying that if the board appoints Kevin as the lead negotiator, he can turn around and pick 2 people on the Board of Selectmen to be part of that team.
Yeah. Yes, I am saying
Or anybody he wants.
Or anybody he wants.
basically.
Right.
that. Yes.
Or one person. And another from maybe the planning board. Or someone
That's correct.
that works at McDonald's. It doesn't
That's
really
correct.
matter, right?
That's correct. As long as he doesn't pick a majority of any board to be on it.
They're going to give us that in writing, Dick?
I have drafted something. I didn't want to. Yes. You want that?
No, I meant the AG.
Oh, I can.
office is
I
gonna
can.
give
Yeah,
us-
I can certainly give you a written opinion on what I've told you. Yes, I just didn't have
From
the time
them, though?
today.
From
I'm
them,
sorry?
From them directly?
No, well, we'll get a letter from them, but you'll get my opinion right away.
Okay. Ginny, anything to add?
If we're going to get written opinions from the AG's office and also from Dick, I'd just assume wait for those written opinions?
You're going to get an advisory from the AG, not exactly a written opinion. It's general counsel advice. Yeah.
But it would also give us some time to think about this, because this is the first thing I mean, this is new to me, and I think I just like to be able to think about it. I do my best thinking late at night. And I don't see any harm in waiting till the next meeting before we make a decision on this.
Any other board discussion? Kevin, you want to add anything?
Just two things. Number one, I appreciate what Dick has done. Just an observation. There's no criticism of Dick or the AG or anyone else, but it is astounding to me that this open meeting law is something that we're all supposed to obey, and in order to understand it, you have to have lawyers going through these intricate details in order to figure out these incredibly subtle manifestations of it. No wonder we get it wrong all the time. This law is so complex, we don't understand it anymore. This is just an absurd situation that the AG and the legislature has created for public officials at the local level. This is absurd. Having said that, sorry for the editorial comment, but I used to understand the open meeting law and I could guide my board. I can't guide you anymore. I have to ask a lawyer, and he has to ask the Attorney General. And we have these crazy hair-splitting sorts of opinions to go through this. It's really exasperating. I don't particularly care how we get this effort in December. 2 weeks from now, we will be then into November. I'm sorry, 30th of October. Town meeting would at that point be only 5 or 6 or 7 weeks away. The warrant would have to be ready approximately 2 weeks after the 30th, which would give us 2 weeks to negotiate the second largest financial deal in the town's history. Not possible.
Kevin, with all due respect, there's nothing that's going to go in the warrant article from these negotiations over the next couple of weeks.
That'd be my point of view,
for a special town meeting.
I think we already discussed that
Well,
with an open body.
second. Okay, so we've talked about this. We voted on it. The same people are going to be on it. So our town council has given his opinion of what the AG has stated. So the first thing that needs to happen is that I move that we can reconsider the vote that we took on September 25th meeting.
Yes.
Let's get that much out of the way.
So I move that. I'm just waiting on a second. Maybe.
Second.
So a motion made to just to reconsider the vote that was taken. The initial vote.
The way that it was on the 25th.
So that was a second vote for the two selectmen.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, 4-1.
To reconsider.
To reconsider. So the motion carries.
As you go forward with the reconsideration, what I would recommend be done is that you dissolve
That was my
that
next
committee.
motion.
And then, if you want to take it, bifurcate it, you dissolve it, and then you can talk about how to proceed after that.
Motion to dissolve the negotiating committee with the KO group.
Motion made to dissolve.
Second.
Second. Motion made to dissolve and seconded. Further discussion? Under the discussion, so just so it's clear, should we go forward, it would have been in violation of the open meeting law. So it doesn't look like we have a choice
We don't.
regardless.
At least have to do those
That much
steps.
we don't have a choice of.
All right, motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0 carries.
Okay. Now, just for clarification, there's no way that a special town meeting in December is going to have any of these warrants on it. I would already put it in my head it's going to be a February meeting at best, another special during the year. It's not something that we're rushing for anybody or ourselves for. That's something that's going to be in the February, a separate town meeting, if we get to that point. This is not something that we're going to try and knuckle down now. The time is just not there. So would the board agree?
Mhm.
So
Let me help you out then. For once I get to give you some good news. In that case, if you're going to have a special in February, because my comments earlier were predicated on the reality that Mansfield and Norton want to know from us if we are in or out of that sewer district in the month of January. And Mansfield has said clearly, if the answer to that question is anything but yes, they will go forward without us. If you're going to have a town meeting in February, then two things happen. Number one, that's close enough to January. They're not going to risk not having us in, so they'll certainly wait. And secondly, you don't need a town meeting in December. There's utterly no reason to have a town meeting because this subject matter is what's driving that town meeting. All the other warrant articles, potentially, none of them justify the calling of a special town meeting, except these. And the timeliness of these is because of Mansfield imposing the requirement that we've got to give them an answer by approximately January. They're having their town meeting to appropriate their bond for the treatment plan addition in October, very soon. So that's the nature of what's driving all this. But we can wait till February. That's not a problem. But you don't need a December meeting.
What about?
Well, I'd ask, do you want to speak?
Yeah. Please, thank you.
I see some nodding from the advisory committee.
Nodding this way.
Yes. Thank you. And if you could introduce yourself.
Larry Thomas, 6 Norton Street, Chairman of the AdCom. We went down this road 2 years ago where we had a special town meeting, I think it was in the end of February, and it just made it absolutely impossible for us to get ready for the annual town meeting with the budgets and all the other warrant articles that came along. The agreement that we had with you at that time was that we would not do that again, that we would, if we were going to have a special town meeting, it would be in December, and then the next town meeting after that would be the annual town meeting in May. So that's what we would ask.
Thanks, Larry. I do recall that because it does put a cog in the wheel for May.
It does for everybody, but if it's something that we ought to put a little extra work into, it's what we're going to have to do. It's,
If I thought it was achievable to say put it off a month, I've been. Is water and sewer close to wrapping all this up, and a month is going to make the difference? I don't see that happening.
The intermunicipal agreement is characterized as about 95, 96% there. There's just very few details left. So we're very close to the point where we can say that the terms and conditions creating the district are now pretty much wrapped up. The piece that isn't is the financing. Now, Mansfield is hopeful that they're going to put financing into place this month. They have a number of businesses that are telling them if they can't begin delivering more sewerage in 3 to 5 years, those businesses are already, their business planning horizon is already looking out that far, and they're telling Mansfield they will leave the town. And these are large businesses. I don't want to say who, obviously, but they're large businesses. So Mansfield is being driven to make the addition to the treatment plant, either of a size and at a cost which services just their needs, or at a size and a cost that services Foxborough and Mansfield or Foxborough and Mansfield and Norton. There are cost efficiencies associated with the more towns you bring in, but Mansfield does not have the luxury of waiting past a certain point.
I don't know that we should be talking about this. I really.
This is the same discussion we have every 6 months, every year with Mansfield. A few weeks is not going to make or break that same old discussion.
Well, as I say, February is not a problem. But if you're saying...
It's a problem with the advisory committee and the process that they've been struggling with for the last couple of years.
Well, I'm trying to answer your question. So if you're saying that February doesn't work for that reason, and I certainly understand that, and December is obviously too soon. This is just inconceivable that we could get it done in time to have it for December. Unless you were to act tonight.
Well,
I hate to say that, but that...
Kevin, the planning board
Then-
wouldn't even be in time. If they would
The planning board's
forward,
not part of this right now. There are no warrant articles being proposed for either a special in December or February. Those are proposed.
Let me
in
do
May.
this, because this topic is a topic of discussion later in the night of the warrant article.
Sure.
So let's talk about it then.
Okay.
We have Adventus coming up, but we also have a 7:30 that we need to open and continue it for a little bit. And I think during that, and if we can continue the discussion on the open meeting law, can you stay around until 9 o'clock? We'll try to
So
go
there's
quick.
only one answer to that, Jim.
Yeah. Thank you. That is a yes. All right, so can we respectfully ask Invensys to hold on for a minute, and can we open the public hearing? Thanks, Dick.
Okay.
I'll
The Board of
be back at 9.
The Board of Selectmen, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 181, and Section 183A, and Chapter 136, Section 4, Town of Foxborough, Revised General Bylaws, Article 5, Section 6, and also Stadium Rules and Regulations, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, October 16, 2012, beginning at 7:30 p.m. in the Andrew A. Gallo Jr. Meeting Room, 40 South Street, to review the application submitted by NPS LLC for the 2011 MIAA High School Super Bowls. All events are proposed for Gillette Stadium. All applications for these events are on file at the Office of Selectmen. All interested parties are welcome to attend.
Thank you. So the hearing is officially open.
Are we going to go through that first, or
No.
are we going to take Invensys?
We're going to take Invensys.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Motion to continue the public hearing for till 7:45.
We want to amend that till later in the evening.
For this one.
Yeah, I don't want to say 7:45 and have to do this
Well,
again.
we know that we have another public hearing at
Oh,
7:45, so.
Just say till later in the evening.
Till later in the evening.
Motion made to extend to later in the evenings. Second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, some happy discussion. Invensys is Steve. Would you like to come up? And Jack Otholet? Is Jack still here?
Jack's here. Jack?
Sure, if you could, yeah. Thanks, Jack.
Oh, you're all wired up here.
I'm just going to say thank you both and welcome. I'm going to hand it right over to Jack, if that's okay.
Well, all right, just for clarification, I'm here as a citizen.
Sure.
The Invensys Outreach Program that we recognize tonight truly reached out and embraced our entire community. And I would like to thank the board for the opportunity to present a brief overview from a community perspective that of what the 23 initiatives consist of and how the 229 volunteers reached out to the very core of who we are and touched our past, our present, and most certainly our future. So consider for a moment the first day of school, everyone putting their best foot forward. Not so easy for families a bit down on their luck, getting assistance through the Foxborough Discretionary Fund. But just imagine the uplift that came for the children in those families when, wearing brand new backpacks, stuffed full of age-appropriate supplies, they headed off to school like the rest of the kids. And it was not only the Invensys Outreach Program that made that possible, but individual employees donating the supplies. And that same effort saw the donation of scientific calculators for students, and they collected surplus workable electronics that were converted to cash and donated to the discretionary fund. Now, we had 8 teams of students at the Ahern School preparing for a science fair. So much excitement, so many ideas. How do you make them work? The team of Invensys volunteers showed the way, the steps to be followed to support their hypotheses. Over 8 weeks, the students learned project planning, problem solving, and project execution. That went so far beyond science. Those were life lessons that will benefit those students the rest of their days. Our troops in Afghanistan were very much on the minds and the hearts of people. The word went out for essential supplies like wipes, socks, drink mixes, protein bars, toothbrushes, floss, sunscreen, and the list went on, and the donations flooded in. More than 50 boxes packed and sent on the way to the troops, together with dozens of notes of support, encouragement, and well wishes. And how about the senior members of our community? They were the tireless volunteers of their own era. With Brackett Landscaping providing the mulch, the volunteers went down, beautified the grounds of the senior center, and then they headed out into the community to pre-selected homes of retirees or others that had needs. Maybe it was to remove broken limbs, rake the leaves, fix up the window boxes, button down for winter, whatever the need. They were there to do it. But how thoughtful that they offered these families that they would call a relative to inform them of what they were doing so that somebody wouldn't get concerned that a bunch of people showed up at mom and dad's yard and started doing work and they didn't know what was going on. And that project continues where the leaves continue to fall. The Birthday in a Box. The regular Birthday Wishes program takes care of children in shelters, but there are other children living in other safe environments that can accommodate the group activity. So they packed birthday boxes for one family. All the fixings to bake a cake, decorate it, all of the decorations, tableware, tablecloth, party hats, candles, decorations, a banner, and even presents for the child in that family. Employees throughout the company donated materials to fill all the boxes, and the Invensys volunteers packed them up, and certainly that would be a birthday celebration to be remembered for a long time. Anxious to explore the world around them, the fifth graders that are here in school quickly signed up for the Lunch and Learn program. Business lunches start early in Foxborough. And volunteers made presentations over lunch. Such topics as bicycle engineering, bridge and structure building, communicating around the globe, video games, and they even got into beekeeping. Students were most attentive, full of questions. But the one recurring question was, when will you come back and do this again? History was well served by this program as well. The volunteers brought their talent and their tools into Memorial Hall. Went down in the basement, a stone basement, and literally built a room. All enclosed with a ceiling, all the wiring and the lights. This would provide for the Historical Commission very, very valuable workspace and storage space. And that area has since been climate controlled for preservation. Meanwhile, other volunteers were upstairs scanning hundreds of pages of the Foxborough Company transmitters in the town archives to make them more accessible to researchers. They're filled with stories on company activity, people profiles, significant company events and accomplishments. For recreation, working with Foxborough Tree and Park, volunteers erected a new fence at Payson Road Recreation Area, 6-inch by 6-inch post in the ground in cement. Down on the recreation area on Mill Street, they totally rehabbed a 10 by 30 foot cabin, state-of-the-art scout space. But think of what that meant to other volunteers working with scouts, working with recreation during the summer who use that. And think of the pages in the memory book of those kids who would camp out there, much as my generation had Camp Rocky Knoll and Scoutland. And here we have it again for other generations. The Relay for Life provided an opportunity to celebrate the lives of loved ones who have battled cancer, honor the memory of those who lost their life to the disease, and to raise money for the American Cancer Society toward a cure. Members raised $7,764, received the Silver Team Award, had a barbecue in the evening, and several maintained a vigil throughout the night. The Invensys outreach also included something for the engineers of tomorrow and students who may consider engineering as a career. Working with the high school faculty, volunteers helped with the lesson ideas and making presentations to the class. Subjects included discussions on the engineering-related disciplines of the automation field, discussion of the overall value of engineering degrees, and specific examples of engineering thinking applied to problem solving, maybe like being a selectman, Jim.
Thanks, Jack.
but that class has already graduated several engineering students. But no matter what path any of these students would take, they share a critical common need, and that is managing their credit. Again, the volunteers stepped forward. The Credit for Life Fair brought training via role-playing and such life decision areas as buying a car, insurance, obtaining a loan, renting an apartment, buying furniture, food, clothes. They're all going to do it, and the list goes on. Proper financial management will put them on solid ground when first starting out, and is training that will help them the rest of their days. Students' interest in science and technology is also encouraged by Invensys volunteers. Partnership with FIRST, an organization designed to inspire young people's interest in science and technology, and Northeastern University's Neutron program to enable them to participate in the annual B-Town Blitz. And for the younger students interested in another branch of science, with the help of 6 laptops donated by Invensys, students could design, build, and test robots capable of performing a variety of tasks. So watch out, Beantown. The awesome Ahern robot programmers are on the way. When I saw that AARP designation, I was thinking of the whole group. But Invensys employees also actively support Greater Boston Food Bank, donating food and funds sufficient to provide 4,118 meals. Support for the Invensys branch of the Hockomock Y is ongoing, and this year's outreach effort included upgrade of the family picnic grove. Another critical area is supporting the Y's Darkness to Light training to assist leaders of scouts and church and children's programs in their effort to prevent child abuse, so that all the children under our care will be safe. So, Invensys Recognition Night. We have so much to be thankful for. Unfortunately, John Eva couldn't be here. He had the initial overall responsibility of bringing the program forward, but he served his company well, and he served his community well, and much as other industrial leaders of the Neponset Avenue neighborhood did in their day. But the volunteers who participated in this program have every reason to feel good about their effort, but we also must make note of the representatives of the various organizations and town departments, the teachers and school administrators and members of the business community who are also part of this far-reaching effort. They made a difference and contributed so much to our sense of community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. And as I look out for the people that are here, I think this is a good example of probably less is better from my side. But if you guys just want to stand up, because a lot of you people, Invensys, come on, you can stand up. These are the people that you work with. The Board of Selectmen and the government is here to, help businesses when we can, because that's what, the municipal does. And businesses don't have to contribute back. I mean, they don't have to, but certainly I think the history of Invensys, past and present, and that's what you do, and you see it every day, and these are the people that you work with, and it just keeps giving and giving. So it's very nice to, last time I saw you, Jack, it was at the Memorial Hall, and you took me into the basement, and there was a bunch of Invensys people doing all the, the storage hall. So you're out in the community, and that's, I think, where most of the important work happens. So I said I wasn't going to say much, but if you want to add to this from the board.
I've always been a huge supporter of Invensys, or the company, as we used to say, Jack, and I know how much that you folks have done for the town and continue to do, and it's a blessing to have you folks here. And we are very lucky to have you and your employees, because they take what they learn here in Foxborough and maybe bring it to their other towns too. And it's just, I look out, I see Dougie. I think Dougie and I have worked together for 30-something years, but I think we're truly blessed. And the discretionary fund, I look back at Lisa, and I think, you must be thinking all these things coming to your head too, everything that Jack mentioned, and there's more than that. We could go on all night. So I thank you, and John knows how I feel about Invensys. So it's part of the time.
Thank you. I'm filling in for John, and what I can say is, on behalf of the company and the employees, we're very proud and happy of the relationship that we have both with the town and the community. and I think it's a win-win situation. We get something back as individuals, and as one of the people that volunteered, it was one of the most rewarding things I've done in the last couple of years. And I was very proud and happy to represent the company and help the community.
Thanks. Anyone else?
No, it's just great. Thank you. It's not just your company, but what you stand for, but the people that you hire continue to do what you've taught them in the community, especially in Foxborough. And Foxborough is a town that runs on volunteerism. It really does. And it's a great example, and people have taken that example and gone to the next level, and we appreciate it.
And having said that, we wanted to present you with a plaque. In appreciation of Invensis, a community partner since 1908, the town of Foxborough, Massachusetts. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't know if you've seen this, but this is something that we put together that obviously can't do as nice of a job as you've done in terms of summarizing some of the activities, but it's got some pictures and some summaries of what we've done over the last year or so.
Yeah, it's nice.
And I'd be glad to get you more copies of that.
Well, Linda could do that for us.
Jim?
Absolutely, Debbie.
Debbie Giardino, Recreation Director. Steve, thank you for standing in for John Eva.
I know I can never replace John.
I don't know that because I don't know John, but Lisa and Jim Downs helped a great deal in getting you here, and I can't say more than thank you to Jack for stepping in and eloquently outlining what you've done. What you may not know is this isn't the first time. This is, in my recent memory, this is the third time around that you guys have come out at least once, if not twice a year. And I know that John Eva has made a point of saying that this is going to be sustainable, that it's going to be going on for a long time, and that you are going to go back to the Foxborough Company roots, which was always being a huge part of the community, and that's what you're going to be building back up on. And as a resident and as a board director, I couldn't be more grateful. Especially, I have 1.5, and with this myself, and a half of an employee. So anything you do for us is extremely welcome and would never, ever get done if it wasn't for you and your company. And I know a lot of the other folks that received benefits from you feel the same way. But I know John Eva is not from Foxborough, but it's like he should be. So he needs to get one of these. And you can give it to him when you see him.
I will make sure I do that.
So, thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Appreciate
Good
it.
night.
Thank you.
Jack, thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
After you read this, if you go to me, I'm going to introduce who we've got a settlement. We have a settlement negotiated, which we'd like to tell you about to see if the board wants to do it.
Okay. Okay, we have one public hearing that was pushed back a little bit. Now we have to open up a second public hearing, so if we could read that into the record.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, October 16th, 2012, at 7:45 p.m. in the Town Hall Meeting Room, 40 South Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts, pursuant to its licensing authority in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, annotated Chapter 138, Sections 23, 64, and 67, and all amendments thereto. The purpose of the hearing will be to review and discuss information concerning alleged violations of Chapter 138 that occurred at the Fusion 5, 105 Washington Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts. All interested parties are invited to attend.
Good evening. Louis Cassis for the town. The owner, Mr. Patel, is here beside me. I can report to the board, all subject to your approval, that I met for the last 20 minutes or so with Mr. Patel. We went over the reports. I met with the police officers first. He recognizes that there was a failure on the nights in question, that a violation did occur. He's willing to take responsibility for the violation. I went over with him the town's policy on progressive punishment, and he has no prior record. Based upon the fact there were several events, he has several different charges. He and I have agreed, subject to your approval, that he would be willing to serve a 3-day suspension. Due to staffing and other considerations, he's requesting November 12th, 13, and 14, and I agreed with Mr. Patel that I would recommend that those are the days that he would serve. He has different events and parties, other days that would be the only time that 3 days in a row would work without interfering with some other pre-planned event. I can summarize the reports for you if you'd like to hear what happened.
Before we do that, though, we have another public hearing that we extended first.
Right.
If you can stick around.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Am I hitting the wrong one?
No, you're at the
You're
right
at the
one.
right
You're at the right one.
But
skipped
we
the
had
first
one. Yeah, we're falling behind.
We have a discussion on MIAA first, that they were extended.
Yep.
And then this was right after that one.
I see. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
You're right.
So,
It's just a scheduling glitch.
Yeah.
We
Go
gotta
back up.
Okay, yeah.
open one, close it,
Okay.
open the other, close it.
All right.
Okay, so do I have a motion to continue the 7:45?
motion to continue 7:45 public hearing,
Second.
7:30 public hearing.
7:45.
This is the second one. No, MIAA was extended. This one.
7:30.
7:45.
No.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm confused.
So the motion was made to extend the 7:45, seconded by Linda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, we have representatives from the discussion for the MIAA High School. Hi, Phil.
Jim.
How are you?
Good, thanks. I'm Phil Buttafuoco, representing Gillette Stadium.
Hi, George Bell, Stadium Advisory Committee.
Welcome. And in our packets, there should be some information on this as well. Okay, Phil, do you want to do the notice?
So the application is for the MIA Super Bowl scheduled for Saturday, December 1st. It is an event that starts at 9 a.m. And will conclude at approximately 9 p.m. with 6 football games during the day. So there'll be 12 different communities that will come in and out of Foxborough during the day. Estimated attendance is roughly 17,500. There is no tailgating permitted on the day. The parking lots would open at 8 a.m., so an hour before the first game, and would close no later than 2 hours after the last game. But typically, that's not an issue. After that last game, people are ready to go home. And it is a general admission event. We do seat the fans for the respective teams on opposite sides behind their team benches. So we've done a nice job there, and Chief O'Leary was appreciative of the efforts over the years to separate the individuals. I believe, Chief Hatfield, that we would be operating under a level 2 operation.
George, did you want to add anything?
No, we met, reviewed it. There'll be no alcohol served.
Right.
Yes. One point, the craft organization is donating the stadium and personnel and the cable coverage, and we saw no issues and voted to recommend that you approve.
Okay. Discussion from the board?
So you have a snow date of the following day. So do we approve it that date too, or put that in the motion somehow, just so it's
I
there?
think if it's in the application, right? So if we
Yeah.
approve the application, that's the rain date or the snow date.
All right. And I mean, the chief said he was fine with it, both chiefs, I'm sorry. And Pauline, so I don't have a problem with it.
This is the last one, I'm sorry. This is the last one.
That is correct, yeah. Yes.
It's a contract that you have?
It is a 3-year agreement, so this is the last of this third year, which is the sixth year of the overall relationship.
Anyone else from the board? Anybody?
I move that, is anybody out there getting?
Close the motion to close. Oh, sorry.
Oh, wait,
Any more discussion?
anybody
amongst the
out
board?
there?
All right, anyone from the public have comments, questions?
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
5-0.
I
Discussion?
move that we approve the application for the MIAA High School Super Bowl to be held at Gillette Stadium on December 1st.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? No discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, just wanted to note for the board's attention, because I think I want to be sure it's clear, and also the public may ask you, we have no request at this time to waive the fee as has been done in past years, and that is not on the agenda tonight.
That's right.
The board vote did not waive the fee.
That's right.
If there is a desire to pursue that, that would require a letter and a
Right.
separate action by the board at a later date.
Exactly.
Because I know you will get asked, I wanted that to be clear on the record. Those
Well, I
people
think
will
that's
ask.
why it went as quickly as it went, because it has nothing to do with that, so.
Right.
You know?
And I
So-
did communicate that to Mr. Murphy tonight, so he's well aware of that, and if there's a decision to request that at a later date, they will make a request.
Okay. You were aware of all that?
The MIAA would make the
Yeah,
request, not the
that's,
stadium.
it's them, yep,
Correct.
yep.
Very good.
Thank
All right,
you.
Bill.
Thanks.
Thanks, George.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, George.
Thank you. Thanks, George.
Now we can go back to the Fusion
So
5.
7:45, hearing that was open for Fusion 5.
If I could pick up where I left off.
Thank you.
The police received a call on September 21st, 2012, at around 3:30 in the morning from a gentleman who was who stayed at the hotel, who complained that he had been kicked out of the bar. He was in the lobby, apparently.
Can I just ask you a question? Do we have any of this information in
Yeah,
our
it came
packet?
late.
We just got it.
Is that what we just handed in?
Yep.
There's full reports there, but rather than read them all in, I think I can summarize them.
Just recall, Mr. Chairman, the board, we can't give you the information prior to the hearing. We can only give it to you the night of the hearing.
Understood, but I didn't see it, so I didn't know that was just handed in.
Jet lag.
I'm sorry,
When
continue.
the police arrived at the lobby at 3:30, they spoke to this gentleman who had called them. He appeared to be highly intoxicated. He later blew a breathalyzer of .13. He said he had been thrown out because he got into a disagreement with someone over a pool game. He produced us. He was asked how much he drank and where he drank, and he said he produced a charge card that showed his last drink was served to him at 2:22 a.m., which is after the closing hour of 1 o'clock, obviously. He was told to go back to his hotel room. The police went in and talked to the bartender, and there was a gentleman in there who apparently is an employee of the hotel. It appeared there were glasses in front of him that were still cold to the touch, and it appeared to the police officers that that gentleman had been drinking, and the bartender was still on duty, and she should have been closed up 2.5 hours prior to that. Unfortunately, when the police came out, the gentleman that they told to go to his room got in his car and tried to drive away. They arrested him for OUI. So the gentleman that called ended up getting himself arrested, which I thought was rather ironic. So obviously there's a sale to an intoxicated person, a sale after hours on the first date. On the second date, similar event, but much earlier, 1:15 a.m., the police, same officers drove in, parking lot, saw a light on, looked in the window, saw the same bartender and a gentleman at the bar. They went in, he had left. They felt the drinks were cold to the touch. He had just been served. The bartender claimed she was cleaning up. The police didn't seem to believe that was all of the events. But in any event, Mr. Patel went over this with me, realizes that it's a very serious event. He's very, very sorry about what happened. I told him that given the severity of what had happened, that he was on the high end of a first offense for you, which would be 3 days. And if you would agree to it, the 3 days would be the penalty, with an administrative fee. And also, he would like to serve it on 12, 13, and 14.
Administrative fee can include, meaning your
Right,
fee.
correct.
And do we treat this as 2 offenses or 1?
I would think I can work it out with your staff tomorrow, but it looks to me like there were 3 offenses total
Yeah.
on 2 dates.
Okay.
Sale to an intoxicated person, sale after hours on the first day, and the sale after hours on the second day.
Wouldn't the 3rd offense would be more of a suspension typically?
Well, it's his first time before the board. Even though it's on 2 days, my understanding of successive punishment is when you get before the board, you realize, look, I did something wrong and I'm in trouble. I'm not going to do it again, so I won't be before the board again another time. I don't think it would be appropriate to treat this as a first offense 3 days, a second offense 7 days. I think this is altogether a first offense with 3 counts.
What about the fact that we consider that plea of 3-day suspension, but we consider it the 3rd offense? Is that?
I wouldn't do that, but the fact finder. I think this is in total a first offense. In other words, he's now before you and told you've offended. Don't offend again, or you're back here. It'll be treated as a second offense.
I think, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I think the concern here is getting on the record for an establishment which has in the past operated for years and had no problems whatsoever. So what we're hoping to do is to get this offense on the record. Now, if you were to determine these are 3 offenses, first of all, you would have to go through a full evidentiary hearing because the next offense would be revocation. And a voluntary admission, I think counsel would agree, would not support a finding in front of ABCC of 3 separate offenses. So, and I'm not trying to talk you out of doing a full-blown hearing, but you would have to go through it tonight, and you're probably looking at 3, 4, 5 hours, probably continuous on another date. So what I think counsel and I are recommending is that you have a voluntary admission of a first offense by a business that's been very clean, and that hopefully they are going to learn their lesson and they will not be before you again.
Also, I think if I've seen boards do this in the past. I've been on the wrong end of it, where the first time someone's before the board and there's multiple counts, they say, well, that's the first 3 days. There's the second 7. And when you get to the commission looks at it and goes, no, that's collectively it's a first offense. Because the whole idea is to tell the person, look, you're in trouble. You've done something wrong. Don't do it again. Not pile it on each time on the first offense. So I think it's the appropriate way to handle it.
Linda?
Lorraine had her hand up first.
Lorraine?
Just a question. The employee who was responsible for both of these violations, what's the status of that employee?
We're probably going to get terminate her.
Okay.
Or something else that we're thinking about is putting her on a day shift, so it's not something that she's there at nighttime.
When I look at the sanctions for violations that we have, certainly the 2, we have in our regs that for the purpose of counting a violation, if it is found that multiple violations occurred within a single business day, that would be counted as a single violation. So it's along the lines of what we have in our regs, and with it being the high end of the
It's the high end of your first offense,
violation,
right.
it's the low end of the second violation is what the 3 days is. So I think it's a decent compromise. It's just my suggestion.
Linda?
I'm just trying to go by history, and we take it pretty seriously here. It's obvious, and I don't have to tell you. I was just wondering if you've taken advantage of some of the courses that your chief has put on. I'm not saying you've probably got a good idea about the woman with that, but if she's careless like that, even during the day, I certainly don't want someone to be walking out, driving out on Route 1 when we have a lot of traffic out there either. So I would suggest that you take advantage of some of the programs that the chief has for all your employees. And just going back to history, we've had.
I want caution.
I'm not bringing that up, and I understand, but I just don't want to set a precedence either, and I believe that we may have already. So I just want to, I don't know about 3 days. Their first offense, and if you look at our history, I can't help myself. I do that.
Just don't mention names.
I'm not going to mention names, but, for an offense of another establishment, we wrote them up. And they threw it back in our face and challenged it and didn't agree to that. And now we have this, Lou comes in with this client that's saying, I'll take the 3 days right off the bat. It's admirable, to say the least. And that should be noted in our discussion, I think, here tonight.
And it's very well said, Linda, but the other thing, it doesn't cause precedence on us because we did not come up with this. This was brought to us. We didn't set the penalty. So I think
right,
we're
and
safe
it doesn't
there.
say that we have to.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I think you did well. One thing I'd like to add to that, and I think we always do this, that you do not try to appeal this to the ABCC. Is that?
He's agreed that this would be the penalty, it would not be appealed.
Okay.
Any more discussion from the
I
board?
just have, because I'm new at this, ordinarily, would the first day with the over-serving and then the serving after hours, that would be considered one offense?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second day would be considered a second offense?
Well, you could do that, but my recommendation is you don't, because he's never been before you before.
Okay.
I guess the temptation here is say, well, look, there are really two offenses, so it's a second offense. The problem with that is he hasn't been before you and received a warning or received a 1 day, so it isn't like he got his one bite at the apple and now he's reoffended. He hasn't reoffended.
Mm-hmm.
He offended together and got here with two offenses. That's why it's on the high end of the first offense, because it's two events.
Okay, has anything like this ever happened in the past where 2 consecutive days there's been 2 separate offenses?
I've seen this happen hundreds of times in other places. I haven't been here long enough to see it happen here.
Yeah, it's happening.
Can I speak on?
Sure.
Just about the second date that the violation occurred, just to kind of, what happened on that day was, I think Sergeant Chamberlain came in right around 1:15, the doors were locked, the bartender was cleaning up. Unfortunately, there was a bottle of Guinness that we keep in the ice bin. Guinness is one of those beers that you can make a black container, you can make multiple beers out, so if we open one up, sometimes we'll cap it and we'll keep it in the ice. So as she was cleaning, she'd taken the bottle out of the ice. There was nobody in the establishment when the police officers came in. And she put it on the bar, not knowing that she probably should have just dumped it right out. So, there is no alcohol on the bar after hours. But the second day, there was nobody inside of the bar when the police officers came out, and it just so happened that when she pulled it out of the ice, she put it on top of the bar. And obviously, when they come in and feel it, it's very cold because it was on ice the whole, probably for an hour.
Not to get into a hearing stage, but when the police would have testified to, they looked in the window and they saw someone. When they got in, he was gone. Now, that's a question of fact for you to sort out. That's how the police saw it. And again, the second offense isn't bad enough, but the first one was rather egregious.
Mr. Chairman, just to make it clear, sir, if the board chose to treat this as 3 separate offenses, they could most assuredly do that. So, if the board decides to give you a break, I wouldn't be here before the board trying to do the testimony and attempt to say that there isn't guilt. That is the whole point of giving you a break.
Okay.
Admit it, be done with it, and if the board decides this is appropriate, then frankly, the board has given you a break based on a good past record. That's the plain fact.
Any more discussion from the board?
Does this mean also now where the bar was after hours possibly something happened, that the police would now be making a regular check of,
I think they do. I mean,
anyway, I mean, that would be one thing.
Police
that-
make regular checks of all the establishments
Yeah, they always have.
randomly, all the time. That's exactly how this occurred on two separate nights, very closely apart, by the way.
they're a week apart, the two events.
Any more discussion from the board? Anyone from the audience have something to add? Questions?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0 carries. Discussion?
Motion to accept the plea by the defendant as played out by our attorney.
That's a 3-day suspension to be served on November
12th, 13th, and 14th.
12, 13, 14. Payment of an administrative fee equal to our cost of processing this hearing,
Not to appeal to the,
and not to appeal the ABCC decision. And council will write that up and send it back here. Usually it's either written for Jim or the chairman or for I, whoever we can get most easily to get it signed and back out. That'll be done ASAP and put in your folders.
Kevin, that includes council's fee.
Yes.
and this will become a part of Mr. Patel's file.
This will become part of the permanent file and will be available as a first offense, uncontested. Should there be any further events, it will go right to the second violation level.
So in the first violation, it says letter of reprimand and/or suspension up to 3 days or both. So the letter of reprimand is not needed.
No. A letter of reprimand would be a much lesser of
Yeah, where
level
it says
for,
or both, I would
for
imagine
something that
they
would
do.
be a more minor offense that the board might say, well, this is pretty serious level. But there could be other things, and it would be a lesser. It gives you the flexibility in the policy.
So could you repeat the motion so it's clear?
Motion to accept the plea through our attorney from Fusion 5 for a 3-day suspension of the 12th, 13th, and 14th of November of 2012. And to pay administrative fees and not to appeal to the ABCC. Lou will write it up.
I'll write it up.
That'll be a Monday, Tuesday, and a Wednesday. Motion
That's
made.
basically just the liquor license. I mean, if he has food, he can still serve food, right? So it's not shutting down totally if you don't, you know.
Motion made. Is it seconded?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I just want to say a thank you to the officers involved and to Chief O'Leary. I think the citizens of the community, I know the board is very appreciative of the fact that our officers are being extremely vigilant on these liquor licenses. And as the board knows, there are a number of additional violation hearings that are pending before you in the next few weeks. And so they're doing the job for the public out there, and they deserve a pat on the back for their good work.
Well said. Thank you. At 8:15, right on
Yeah.
the minute. Public hearing for the application for wine and malt restaurant.
The Board of Selectmen of the Town of Foxborough, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, October 16th, 2012, at 8:15 p.m. in the Town Hall Meeting Room, 40 South Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts, on application for a new annual wine and malt restaurant license for Asian Ginger Incorporated, doing business as Asian Ginger, 70 Central Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts, 02035. Manager Lee Juan Chen. The premise is approximately 2,090 square feet of floor space, kitchen and dining area, front entrance, rear exit from kitchen, and exit leading from the dining area. All interested persons are invited to attend the hearing.
Thank you. Welcome.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I just have to make a notice that I am in a butter. I own property that abuts your property, so I will be recusing myself from this hearing.
Very good.
Thank you for sending us the list, though.
Okay, if you could just introduce yourself for the record.
My name is Wade. I'm an attorney in Boston, and I was retained by Asian Ginger for this liquor license application process. And this is Ms. Chen, proposed manager and director of Asian Ginger Inc. And this is Mr. Gary. His name is Gary. He's one of the employees in the restaurant.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Do you want to just pull this a little bit?
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Well, this restaurant was, I think, opened in May this year, and so a few months, and they came up to me, and basically they're saying customers enjoy the food, especially dinner time, and they asked about whether there'd be opportunity for the restaurant to serve beer and wine so that they can enjoy food more. So they came to ask me whether I can call the towns to find out whether there's a liquor license, beer and wine liquor license available, so which we did. And here we are with the application. And this is more of a family restaurant. And Ms. Chen used to be a manager for a couple of restaurants before. One in Connecticut, in Stamford, it's called the Finn. And then after that, she went to work for another, what is the name? I don't remember now.
Asian Moon.
Asian Moon, which is in New York. And then she joined this restaurant in May, Asian Ginger this year, and as a manager, but now is proposed manager for liquor license purposes. Okay. And the restaurant has been, as I said, open for a few months. It's running smoothly, as they had hoped. And we are here to request the board to approve the pending license application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we get into the board discussion, Kevin, the application, this went through the process, it's complete?
It is, Mr. Chairman, and counsel for the applicant has just handed me the affidavit of notice of mailing to abutters and the return receipts for the file.
Okay, thank you.
And Cody, I'm not sure whether that church is within 500 feet, but from the safe side, I sent it out to the church.
Side mail. Okay, discussion from the board.
So, you would be the manager, correct? You would be the manager?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've had experience with local license, liquor licenses and how they work, or no?
No, she doesn't have experience with the Commonwealth's liquor license, license the premises.
Okay.
But in other restaurants, Connecticut, New York. Right.
They you know how to ID people and things like that, right?
Yeah.
What do you use for to card someone? Let's say, do you just go by their license and that's it, or do you have special?
Passport, ID, and then merger ID, and picture ID to show their age.
So again, I would probably suggest that she gets with the chief of police. He does these classes that so that you can see if somebody could be giving you a false ID. That's kind of what I'm getting to. I just want to be sure that you don't serve somebody that is not of age or obviously overserve someone, but I don't think that is the possibility. I think more of it would be because you're serving food. I think more of it would be someone trying to give you a false ID, whether it's a passport or something
for
like
that
that.
purpose, she took a course which is part of the application.
The tips,
yeah.
Yes, yep, yep.
Which is the part of the package.
Okay, yep, saw that.
So you just saw how obviously we take this very seriously in this town, and the gentleman before you just gave up his license for 3 days, so he's going to lose that income for 3 days. And November's a pretty busy month. People love to go out after shopping and things. So we do take it pretty serious, so it's something you want to, keep on and keep your employees on to make sure that that's got to be like number one. I'm sure that the rest of my board members are going to have more to say, but I'm going to shut up for now.
Anyone else?
I noticed the Safe Serve and the TIPS training in the packet, so I'm sure that you understand what our expectation is. And again, echoing Linda, all of us, public safety is our number one priority, and we want to make sure there's never any over-serving or false IDs getting past you. I know it's getting more and more difficult to detect them, so just a word of caution, but welcome your business again to Foxborough, and wish you luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mark?
Just be very careful. If the board grants you this, I strongly urge you to be very careful. Young kids do try to go to the Asian restaurants more than others with falsified IDs, and I'll caution you on that. I would suggest that you will get an updated scanner. It'd be the best protection for yourself. And for the cost, I think it's well worth it when you have to bring your attorney back here for a violation. That one time, we'll pay for that scanner.
Sit on the same chair.
Especially one from Boston.
Thank you.
Is that?
Yes.
The layout of the building, there are tables with chairs around it, so you go in there to eat. There's no bar set up, so someone would come in just to sit and have a drink without food.
CNG.
If I was to come in there and just want a drink and sit at a bar, I don't see a bar on the floor plan. There's a sushi.
Just only sushi bar and.
But you don't cater to patrons coming in there just for a drink. There would be dinner or lunch.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. We just bring the customer come here, then they order the food and then order some beer and wine.
To accompany the food?
Yeah, that's
okay,
right. Yeah.
That's my question.
We don't have a bar built up like a full liquor bar over here. We just serve a beer and wine. That's
correct.
It.
Okay, thank you. And I just echo Linda's concern. I mean, you are on Main Street. You're at the entrance to the town. Very visible location. And that most of the time that violations come in front of us, we take it away for 1, 2, or 3 days. And this is very high profile. So although I wish you tremendous luck, I had dinner and I think it's good food, but very cautious on the alcohol, as any establishment would be.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Is there anyone in the public that would have any questions or concerns?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made to close it, seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor of closing?
Aye.
4-0, and 1 abstaining.
Oh, yeah, she's not even part of the discussion, so it's 0-0.
You recused
Yeah.
yourself, you're right, 4-0-0. Thank you.
I move that we approve the application for a wine and malt license for Asian Ginger, located at 70 Central Street.
And if I may suggest, Mr. Chairman, subject to the conditions of the successful Corey check return, and secondly, that the floor plan...
Wasn't that in here?
It was in the packet.
Wasn't that in there?
No, the request is in, not the...
You're right.
Oh, okay, not the...
And secondly, subject to the floor plan as submitted. We actually attach this right to the license.
Right.
Okay.
Did you get that, Diana?
Corey check return and floor plan. And if I may, through the chair, Mr. Chairman, just a reminder to your clients, because we've had some problems lately. If the corporate ownership, the management, the floor plan, basically almost anything concerning operations changes, they must come back before the board. Okay?
Right.
Yes, thank you.
And good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
So a motion was made, seconded?
Second.
Second by Lorraine. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
4-0-0. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Good luck. Okay. Let's start with a few minutes early, actually.
Fantastic.
Let's do a couple quick action items.
Well, we gotta wait for Lorraine. I mean, no,
Ginny,
Lorraine's
yeah,
here, it's
Ginny.
Ginny.
We almost forgot about you, Jenny. We were like, oh, we're ready to move on.
We're a few minutes early, so we're going to go through a couple action items. Is inter-office, our board meeting from September 25th.
I approved the minutes from September 25th. I didn't have any.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any more edits, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Oh, you had something?
On the last page, it said a motion to have, and I just have a question, I don't know whether, motion to have two members of the Board of Selectmen negotiating team was made by Ms. Capola, seconded by Ms. Brew. The motion was
Made by
carried
me.
4-1. Was it 4-1 or 3-2?
Yeah, it was. No,
Oh, it was 4-1?
4-1.
I made the motion.
It was 4-1.
Chip.
All three of you.
No,
All
well,
four
then
of
the
you
next
were.
one, no. The next paragraph says motion to have Ms. Brew, Mr. Sullivan be the two reps. That was 4-1. But the original motion to have two members of the Board of Selectmen on the
It's
negotiating
awful.
team, I thought that was 3-2.
No, all four of you
Oh.
voted.
It was still 4, oh, okay, I'm sorry.
But I made the motion
No.
for Lorraine to be on the committee.
Right, that's
Yeah.
the second one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's the second one.
Yeah, okay.
But
The first one that you made and Lorraine seconded, all four of you folks said yes.
So it was 4-1.
I was the only
Okay.
one.
I thought, yeah, I didn't know whether it was 3-2 or 4-1. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's
Thank you.
okay.
It's a mute point now anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it sure is. Just cross that right off. Should have listened to me, that's right.
That's what you're trying to say.
That's what I was trying to say. But I will never say, I told you so.
Use people.
I will never say, I told you so, but I did.
Yep.
Lots
All
of
right,
love.
so that was motion made. Did we vote on that?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
okay. Deb Giardino,
Thank goodness
the
you're here. I'll tell you,
Septimus
Diana.
Rec Director made a request to hold a Halloween parade on October 27th from 3 to 6 p.m.
I move that we approve the Halloween parade for Saturday, October 27th from 3 to 6, as laid out in the application.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Actually, going to have Halloween in Foxborough.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
right.
the 27th.
Don't
We
be
don't know.
jinxing this
We're not
stuff,
sure
man.
what we're going
We
to do
got
on the
some time
31st
left,
yet.
yeah. Three
It's
in a
all
row.
up to us, right?
And I don't know if this is more of a clerical, but a warrant for state election to be held on Tuesday,
to
November
approve it.
6th.
Yeah, you have to
We have
prove it
to
to make it legal.
We have to
Yeah, we do.
approve it.
It's at
So-
8 p.m. at the Ahern Middle School.
I move that we approve the warrant for the state election to be held on Tuesday, November 6th at 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the John J. Ahern Middle School.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0
Mark will be
carries.
passing around that warrant.
Yep.
In there for your signatures.
All right, town manager label counts.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we've got two guests with us, Labor Council, and Lou Parity is manager. Lou, come on up. And I don't know where Labor Council went. Lisa, do you know where? Oh, there he is. Okay. He's hiding.
We got two labor councils? I'm out of
One
here.
Labor Council and one, I don't know what your official
Subject
title
matter
is. Subject matter expert. There you go.
Just so we're clear, we have nothing in our packet on this, correct?
No, you don't. There is a motion, which Leo has written up, if it's the board's pleasure to approve this. As the board is aware, legislation passed last year allowing boards of selectmen, city councils, mayor, et cetera, to make certain changes to employee health insurance as a matter of municipal right without negotiation, although there are certain steps that must be taken in order to implement it, and you have been briefed on a separate night on what all those are. Tonight comes the decision, do you want to in fact take that step? The chairman, shop steward, president, whatever title, of all 8 or 9, I'm sorry, of the municipal and school labor unions have been notified, and I know some of them are here looking into the audience. Council is here to answer any questions that the board may have concerning technicalities of the law and what the process is. Lou is here from Maya, our insurance collaborative, to answer what the changes are in the health insurance. He's got some exhibits, and we don't have to go through them ad nauseum because there aren't that many changes. But this is an opportunity for the board to fully understand this and for the members of the bargaining units to ask you questions or state their concerns, make their comment, whatever they like. So it's really a matter of what the board's pleasure is in terms of what you'd like. Maybe you want council to just give you a quick overview or something, I don't know.
If anyone doesn't object from the board, I think it's probably appropriate if we have a few minutes. We've heard it before a little bit.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
just to refresh us and so the people can hear it, I think that's a good idea.
This allows you to make changes to health insurance following a very non-traditional model. Typically, you would have to go through traditional bargaining under the public sector bargaining law. This is a more of a process than it is traditional bargaining. There is a bargaining component to it, but at the end of the process, it's really the town's decision as to what they want to do. You're at the very early stages in that in order to take advantage of the process and get involved in the process, you have to take a vote to adopt the process, and that's what's before you this evening. Following that, the next notice would go out to your Insurance Advisory Committee, which is made up of representatives of your different labor unions, town, schools, etc. All of the data in terms of cost implications, cost savings, premium savings, changes in the insurance plans would all be shared with that Insurance Advisory Committee over a 10-day period. There'd be a meeting to discuss those changes. Ultimately, what it means for employees is that they can expect to see their co-pays and deductibles be increased, but only to the level of the General Insurance Commission plans, the so-called GIC. That's as far as you can go. And the benefit to employees, besides resulting in either premium savings outright or a suppression of premium growth, you're obligated to establish a mitigation fund that's made up of 25% of the total savings. And one of the things that you do have to bargain is how the employees would like to see that money made available to employees. Essentially, it is their money, and how, whether it's going to be to offset co-pays, to establish health savings accounts, whatever. That's a process that takes place in this bargaining process, and that all takes place with something called the Public Employee Committee, which is made up of representatives of all your unions. The Public Employee Committee acts based on a weighted vote, so it's proportional to how many members of the union are involved. Probably here in Foxborough, as in most communities, your largest union is probably your teachers' union. The process, unlike traditional bargaining, the statute requires it to take place over a very quick period of time. You're shooting here to make changes effective. What's your plan year?
9/1.
9/1. So you're shooting. You're well in advance of the time that you need to make changes effective September 1st. So you've got an early start on things. That's really it in a nutshell. So tonight you're just voting to say we want to adopt that process and start down that path. The unions have been given notice that tonight's the vote, and here to witness the vote and comment.
Comments from the board?
I do want to come.
Yep. From the board?
Not sure if I agree with it totally. But it'd be interesting to hear a lot more about it.
Again, this vote is just to engage in the process, so if we'll open up if there's anyone from the public that has a comment or a direction towards the board before we make that decision.
Good evening, folks. My name's Dave Haley. I'm the firefighters representative to the Insurance Advisory Committee. I think most of us on the committee and some of the employees of town knew that this night was going to come, subsequent to some other events that have gone on with health insurance over the past few years. But I just wanted to kind of give a historical perspective of how we got to where we are today with respect to the town employees and our willingness to cooperate and make some changes. Back in 2011, it was actually 2010, when we made the initial switch to the Maya plan, and these figures are right from group benefit strategy sheets the town's consultant provided to us. That initial switch to the Maya plan, the town resulted in a $403,000 savings for that one particular move. The second move was a change in retirees' contribution rate, which resulted in an estimated $140,000 savings. The next change this past year was copay increases, which were agreed to by the unions, implemented by the town. And per, again, the group benefit strategy sheet showed a $342,000 savings. A couple of unknowns that we have. Some of you may know, or some don't know, the town has been a subscriber to what's the federal government calls the Early Retiree Reinsurance Program, and has been receiving funds for the past several years, my understanding, and that's good until 2014, to help offset costs of the insurance provided to early retirees between the age of 55 and 65. What that amount currently the town's taking in, I don't know. I've heard estimates between $40,000 and $50,000. Another change that the town encouraged employees to make this year was those that were enrolled in, I believe, the PPO plan, the Blue Cross Blue Choice plan, to make the switch to the HMO Blue plan, which is cheaper, thus resulting in more savings to the town. Conservatively, at least by the figures I have on the papers provided to the Insurance Advisory Committee members, we're talking $1 million in savings in the past 2 years. $1 million in savings to the town. Now, savings to the employees? Absolutely. We've seen a decrease in the rise in the premiums. We've also made changes in our copays. There's been an increase in copays, so more out-of-pocket expenses. And I guess the question I have tonight, and the other representatives of the committee I've talked with, is why do we feel the need why does the town feel the need to do this? I mean, if you saw the headline in the Chronicle today, it was pretty funny that Foxborough is awash in money all of a sudden. And certainly I take that for face value. But the town of Easton, back in January, the Selectmen took a vote to not adopt this statute. They felt that they could achieve savings through the normal collective bargaining process that they currently enjoy with their unions. They felt the relationship was good enough that any cost savings achieved otherwise could be done through the normal means. I guess my question, maybe Kevin can answer or Lou can answer, is what are the anticipated savings if we go to this for the coming year?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One comment I think is important to have on the record. Your description was very accurate and very admirable because you obviously paid attention to a lot of details. One thing that is important to note is that the copay changes that were introduced, every employee who wished to be was fully reimbursed for the cost of those copay changes. Correct. And the town paid out some, I think, Lisa helped me, about $14,000 to every employee who wanted to be reimbursed. Admittedly, some employees didn't do that, but if they wanted to, there was no reason for any employee to be harmfully affected. And that's why we were able to negotiate it, because we said, look, we don't want to hurt people, but we can save a lot of money for the employees in the town, and so we did. So here are the numbers. We just finished an education program with employees through visits in the various workplaces and through the health fair. Maya and Blue Cross had indicated to the town that 96% of all the expenditures that were made under the point of service plan last year were made in network, meaning of all the employees that were buying that point of service plan, they were probably thinking they needed it, and they really didn't. 96% of that money was wasted. Now, there's a very substantial premium increase between a POS plan, a PPO plan, and an HMO. We offer all of them. So we did a heavy educational effort, and I'm very pleased to
advise everybody, because I think this is the first time the numbers have been out, that we had quite a few people re-enroll, and the savings to the town because of those re-enrollments is $72,000, and the employees who re-enrolled themselves enjoyed a substantial savings of about a quarter of that. And that was 24 families and 10 individuals, and their total savings would have been order of magnitude 20 grand. So that was a lot of money that those employees saved, and the town saved it as well. That's what I call a win-win, because the employees, their coverage and their benefits weren't changed at all. The only thing they lost was the ability to go out of network and self-refer. And frankly, since 99% of all the doctors in New England are in the network, unless they want to go see that 1% of doctors that aren't, they were paying for something that they didn't need. And so the education effort was very successful, and that's a real win-win. This current change would result in, and Lou is prepared to take you through the chart which shows what the changes are, would result in a savings to the town employees combined of $705,000. Now, the employee savings would be approximately a quarter of that permanently. The town savings would be approximately 75% of that permanently. But in the first year of the savings, an additional 25%, or in other words, 50-50, goes back to the employees. And what I do, if the board were to adopt this, is I would sit down with an employee committee that the statute requires, and I would say to them, how would you like your 50% of these savings? So we're talking a very large amount of money here. And the employees would indicate how they'd like to do it. Very common, and certainly not the only way we can do it, but very common is to set up health reimbursement accounts so that employees that are harmed, if you will, that have to pay these higher co-pays, basically don't pay them, they get reimbursed. And that's the way that we're seeing across the state, most of the cities and towns. About 100 cities and towns that have already done this, about a third of the state. And the vast majority have set up those HSAs. A few have given a premium holiday. So they said to the employees, you can have back this money in the form of don't pay health insurance, your contributory share for a month. So that's a choice the employees make. But that's the numbers, roughly, so about $750,000. And in the initial year, that's split between the parties. So I can. This has been broken down. Randy was working with Lisa, and they broke this down into an enormous amount of detail, which we'll share with the Insurance Advisory Committee, so that they can verify the figures themselves and also tell us how they'd like this money distributed.
Kevin, one of the questions I think Dave had was, does this give us, these change in the health regulations, if we go into this process, does it give us tools to get to the same endpoint versus not doing this and trying to negotiate the way that the unions have been negotiating in the past? In other words, when we take advantage of this, could we get to the same result without doing this?
You can negotiate this, these changes, in which case, it being the nature of negotiations, you will pay something for it. The reason the legislature passed this was because the cost of health insurance, not just for our employees, and I'm one of the employees on it, but for all employees that are covered by health insurance through both town, city, and private sector plans, healthcare costs are spiraling at an astronomical rate. I think everybody is aware of that. The process of Chapter 150, the collective bargaining statute, made it so difficult to introduce change that the legislature found the rate of change that you could collectively bargain to be impractical with respect to the amount of change you could introduce in order to dampen the effect of the increase was so slow that cities and towns have gone from where 15 years ago 10 or 11% of our gross budget was health insurance, and now we're all approaching 18-19%. That is a not sustainable curve. Moreover, cities and towns in Massachusetts and a few other states, it's not all that common anymore, still offer employee
retired employee health insurance on a 50-50 basis. Now, that's something that is absolutely gone in the private sector. It's unheard of. Government continues to do it, and we call it OPEB, and it's a $75 million liability for us. So the legislature, seeing that landscape, said we're going to have to give cities and towns a more effective and much faster way to reduce the curve. In other words, the escalation of healthcare costs. So they gave us this tool, and what they said was that cities and towns can adopt a plan which is equal to the most heavily enrolled GIC, group insurance plan, or the state workers plan, and lots of cities and towns are in it too. And you can do it unilaterally without negotiation, but you have to share the savings and all that and do some other things. So this is just a tool. Now, I'm not a proponent of what's called cost shifting. In other words, just taking dollars, changing benefits, putting it on the backs of employees, and saving the town money. All the changes that we've introduced to this point have been done on the basis of holding the employees harmless. These changes, and Lou can go over them with you, are fairly modest. They're not dramatic changes. I think if the unions would like, we can hold the employees harmless, and we can probably do it with these sorts of savings dollars. We could probably do it for quite a few years, because the amount we're going to save is probably substantially more than 1, 2, or even 3 years of the cost shift to the employees. So we can hold most of them harmless who experience these. But frankly, as one employee, I count my blessings that we have a benefit plan that's as rich as this. Public sector health insurance benefit plans are far richer than you will find in the private sector. It's not even a close comparison. And I have health insurance for when I retire. I look forward to that someday. So I think it's the case that those of us who are covered by these plans have to accept the reality that we have to step up and do a little more in the way of co-pays and deductibles in order to keep the very rich benefit structure that we've got. Okay. And so that's why I recommend this to you. And admittedly, not in any way hiding that some people are going to be affected by this in terms of paying more money. Hopefully we can hold them harmless for a while.
Thank you. You all set, Dave? Or?
Just to, finish up. I mean, I'm not up here opposing the Selectmen's decision to go forward with this. I just was looking for some information and clarification. My biggest concern probably, and I think Todd Kaiser, as the chairman of the Insurance Advisory Committee, would echo, is that we have very little information. We've had one meeting since May of 2011. And the last time I was up here before the board, we had gone 2 years without a meeting. So that being said, and I appreciate Kevin's explanation because it goes a long way to me being able to bring this information back to my members. Since I've got notice of the meeting, my phone has been ringing off the hook with legitimate concerns from our guys saying, what's happening now? What are they taking away now? How much more out of pocket am I going to have to pay now? One of the biggest concerns with the benchmark GIC plan is an out-of-pocket upfront $250 deductible for individuals and $750 for a family plan. That's before you go see any doctor. And for members of my organization that have young children, one has a child with a chronic illness, that's a huge chunk to have to fork out to go see the doc. And here again, I'm sure it can be better explained in future meetings, but like I stated, I was looking for clarification and some information to bring back to our members. That's all.
Great. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any more discussion from the board?
I think that if we're so early in this, it's September we're talking about. Is that what you said, Lou? September?
Your anniversary date is September 1st.
So
I think Leo would confirm that if any changes are made, the employees have to be given at least a 60-day notice,
right.
Which means back to July 1st,
right.
Which means you probably have to start the process sometime early part of 2013.
Yeah. Well, and I think, we're just getting this to So I think I would like to see you meet with them and hear their concerns and maybe get that back to us, and then we can see where we go before I make a decision. That's just me.
By the way, just so the board understands, it's something of a catch-22. I can't really meet with the unions and discuss this until I find out where you're going. So it's kind of, I'm kind of on the horns of a dilemma. Who do I talk to first?
Isn't information, though? I mean,
well, it is, but
everything's open meeting right now, so whatever you say to me is going out to...
Well, let me finish.
Over the town.
Let me finish. The changes are pretty universally understood by bargaining units. This has received huge publicity, so this is not going to be I don't think this is going to come as a surprise to anybody because everyone understands what the GIC most enrolled plan looks like. But the dilemma is I can't kind of sit down with the unions and presume you're going to approve this. I've got to find out from somebody. And so we decided at the last meeting to come back to you to find out if you were interested in pursuing this. I'm very happy to sit with the unions because my normal way of doing business is to be very communicative. And with the bargaining units on the town side with whom I've had dealings, I think they will tell your university I've been extremely communicative about what's coming for months now. It's, with the bargaining unit members, and Dave, I don't know if you're on the bargaining team, but I've been very upfront with them about what's coming in general terms, and so there's very good awareness of what's at stake. In terms of sitting down and going through it in detail, sure, I'm happy to do that if that's something the board would like.
I just, when I hear Dave say that the insurance group hasn't met in over a year, that concerns me, especially with, there's changes in, we've been thinking of changes in insurance for a few months now, and then some. So I think that's what I was reacting to. Not that I want you to go sit with all, but I think that you owe the group of insurance folks that are a committee to sit down with them, and because you're saying everybody's educated about this, but yet Dave's getting phone calls about it. I'm sure others have too, right? Or am I talking out of line here for you folks or not? Okay, so is that something that you...
Well, the next step in the process, and it's required, is that Kevin send a notice to the Insurance Advisory Committee for a meeting in which all that detail is laid out and discussed with them.
We are required as the next step.
To do that, you have to approve this step in the process, which is to go down that path.
I can sit and meet with them and say, okay, here's what the board might do. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. Or you vote it, and then I sit and tell them this is what the board has done, and here's the changes. Whichever way you'd like to do it. But it's kind of when I met with you before and discussed this, you laid the process out as the next step being to meet with you. And so that's what I'm doing. Now, if you would like me to meet with the bargaining units and go through, I'm happy to do that. But whatever you'd like, whatever your pleasure is.
But this isn't a process that you're creating. This is something that...
This is this outlined in statute.
And it's been well publicized and been out there for a while. We're implementing something that was set up by somebody else. So you're not educating them on this. They should already know that based on what's out there.
Well, I know that the large unions in town, Mass Teachers, IAFF, IBPO, all know about this because they've all done their own seminars on it. I've talked to their representatives. They all know what's coming. Some of the smaller units may not, and in fact, I talked to the president of the custodial unit at the school last week because he's not affiliated with a larger unit, and I kind of went through as much as I knew, and then I said, please come tonight. We're going to, have more information for you, and so I gave him as much as I had. Lou was able to get this to me this week, the comparison chart. So some of the smaller units may not be that familiar with it, but the larger units, this is common knowledge. Everyone knows this is in play. It's already been done in a third of the cities and towns in Massachusetts, so not a surprise.
Okay, more discussion from the board?
Yeah, James, I just, I always wary of legislation passed down by the state sometimes on a personal reaction to this. Someone who's had to battle with health care for his family for so many years. I mean, it's a common discussion, a weekly discussion. It's constantly, every year it's like, all right, we go from this plan to the next plan, and then we get a higher copay. If we're going to be able to hang on to it, we need to go to this, or we're going to move it to this. It's constantly juggling it around. And this is just another way of juggling it around again. You would think, in my opinion, that the legislators would be more apt to be going after more legislation that would control the cost of health insurance through the companies that hand out these multi-million-dollar bonuses to people that are working for these, companies. And I find it a little upsetting because it's something that hits in a personal note. That whenever you touch somebody's health insurance, a chain reaction goes off. And it's just an upsetting feeling. And I'm really not comfortable with this at all.
All right.
I just wanted to clarify. So for this scenario, it's reported that there would be a savings of $705,000 in total.
Approximately, based upon your current head count. The majority of your employees are in the HMO plan. There are some folks in the point of service plan, and a very small number in the PPO plan.
And that's also based on current rates.
Right.
Now, remember, this would go into effect on September 1 next year. So if rates went down, which I don't think is going to happen, then the savings would be smaller than 705. But if rates went up on September 1, then the savings would be increased beyond the 705 by whatever percent rates go up.
And what's the average of rates going up every year, 8%?
Now, last year the overall Maya averaged 5.3. The overall increase for the town of Foxborough was zero.
That was because of the copay changes we made.
Right, but I'm saying the
Otherwise, we
cost
would
of health
have
insurance taking away everything, and I understand what you're saying, Kevin, the cost of co-pays, but their rate went up. What I'm trying to say to you, the rate of the health insurance for the town went up 5.9%.
That was for the overall Maya, 130 accounts in the Maya Trust.
Foxborough had a 3% increase indicated. We introduced the copay changes, negotiated it, held the employees harmless, and that dropped it to a 0. So we had no rate increase this year.
Right. I'm going to rephrase it one more time.
No, but to get to your point about the escalating cost of health care.
What's the average every year?
Well, the Blue Cross has a new contract with a lot of the hospitals out there called the AQC contract, which ties providers in a 5-year deal to a certain global payment. They've been able to reduce their trend increase from about 8% to about 5% over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're using about a 5 to 6% trend factor to project future increases.
So if you take that, let's go with the 6%.
Right.
Like $750,000.
Right.
So the net saving now, was it 705 or 750?
750.
705, 6% of that, 60.
So you're looking at another
55,000,
yeah.
All right, so
it'd
now
be
you're down to
750.
So just put in real numbers for the board to understand, because those are real numbers.
Right.
Not what co-pays were brought up or adjustments were made, the average of going up per year. So, but in a 5-year trend, if it goes up 6%, in a 5-year trend, and the trend was worse a few years ago.
Oh, it was certainly worse.
It was 12 and 8%. So let's say we took an average of 7 over a 5-year trend. What's the number on that?
Well, compounded about 30%.
So we're just moving the number. Is my point. It's being moved from faction to faction instead of being brought under control.
Well, it's hopeful that with the new legislation passed by the governor this year, within the last several months, moving towards a global payment type of approach, we'll be able to get the providers to agree to a certain rate of increase that they can live with for a certain amount of time. So that right now we're all subject to a healthcare system where providers bill based upon the number of services they can bill. They get paid more if they do more services. The state is trying to get to an approach where they're going to focus on quality. They're going to look at outcomes and say, okay, you have to live within this global budget. in a way to get away from this billing for each individual service and looking at a patient in an entirety. That's the goal. Whether in fact it succeeds or not, who knows? But we're the first state to try that, to try to live within a certain global budget. The goal by 2013, 2014, is to cap the rate of increase to a little less than 4%. That's the goal. I don't know if they'll reach it, but that's the goal.
All right.
So going back to the 705 figure, so you said for the first year,
Right.
50% of that would be returned to the employees?
Yes.
So
Under the Section 21, that is correct.
$350,000 would go into some account?
Copay account, possibly.
Whatever they
Or
want.
whatever.
Well, it's 20. You can fund a mitigation fund up to 25% of the total savings.
Okay.
You don't
So
have to do 25%, but most communities are doing 25%.
Employees get 25% of the savings off the top because they pay 25% of the cost. Of the remaining 75% we save, 25% of that has to be put into a mitigation fund, which is then used for whatever the employees would like it used for. So, in essence, the number's a little bit different, but in essence, the first year savings is split 50-50 for all intents and purposes, more or less. And then as you go to the second year, the taxpayers get the full benefit of the 75% savings, the employees get the full benefit of the 25%, and whatever residual might still be in that fund can continue to be spent to mitigate until it's gone.
But is that per union, or is that over the whole net of the employees?
All employees.
That's
So
over all
the
employees.
unions would have to agree to that one?
No, the unions don't have to agree. The committee that has a representative of each union has to agree on how the money, the 25% savings, gets spent in that first year by majority vote of the
And
committee.
each committee member would be representing their union, so.
Right,
that
so
would-
one union, one
But
vote.
they don't have to agree to the, we're starting the process, but that process, they need to, they need to agree to it, period.
They
And
don't
that's-
agree to the change, that's strictly the board's prerogative. But when the savings is calculated, the employee committee decides how they want to spend that money. And they're the only ones who have that prerogative. And they do it by majority vote, one representative of each bargaining unit, and the State Retirees Association assigns a retiree from the town of Foxborough who is a retiree rep. And I have to meet with them and have this dialogue.
So basically, the bigger family would be affected the most. If it's a copay increase, the biggest family is affected the most. Wouldn't you say on average, because multiple people in the family covered by the family plan, more percentage chance of that one of those children or spouse. All right. So then if you raise the rate or you pass the burden over, more of a payment, but that's equal across the board. So, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's rate would stay the same. The family rate would stay the same if it was 4 kids, 10 kids, 12 kids.
Oh, that's correct.
Yes.
I mean, the
Right.
family rate is the family
So-
rate, whether it's a husband and wife or a husband and a child, it's a family rate.
It wouldn't be adjustable.
No.
Right.
And one other thing I want to make sure, obviously with that deductible, which is a new feature, it's $250 for an individual. If it's a husband and wife, a two-person family, it's $500. We can't take out more than the 2 individual co-pays.
Annually.
2 deductibles.
Annually.
That's correct. It's on a plan year. So in other words, September 1st to September 1st.
So if there's a $500 copay for a family plan,
If it's a husband and wife, say 2 people in a family,
Yeah.
the max is $500.
okay,
If
but
it's
Seven-
3 or more,
$750.
it's $750.
okay.
Well, but if it's a 2-person family,
It's
it's $750. It's
no,
not.
No, it's 500.
it's 500.
Right.
That's
So,
what it says.
so the max,
I know.
the max after taxation money that a family would have to put back into a copay would be $750.
Deductible.
Deductible.
There's a difference between a deductible and a copay.
Right, I understand. I'm sorry, my bad.
No,
My
that's
bad.
all right.
No,
because
copay.
It took me 20 years to understand the difference. So don't believe it. Don't worry
So,
about
and we're relying on you?
it. No. But I finally learned.
You can use the mitigation fund in part, and again, this is...
That's what I'm saying. That's
This
my
is a
point.
process, right, where the
It's something
employees
that-
can say, we'd like to have the mitigation money directed towards those who are getting the biggest hit.
That's why I'm saying if that was a decisive part of why I would vote for this would be if that was to occur, because I wouldn't want a larger family being hurt more than a smaller family.
Just so it's clear, Mark, in the interest of full disclosure.
Not our choice.
Not our choice.
I
That's the
understand
employee's
that.
choice.
But
The
I
whole
mean-
concept of group insurance is, I'm sick this year, and I got to use a lot of health insurance, and you're not, but you're paying the same premium, so you're helping me out, and maybe next year the tables will change. When you have this money in a mitigation fund potentially, you're doing exactly the reverse. And employees would have to decide. Instead of taking my share as an employee, a family or an individual, this year of that savings, and everybody gets the exact same amount, and it's gone, I'd have to make a conscious decision. I'm going to let that money, a little bit of which is mine, go to other people who need it. Maybe I need it, maybe I don't. So that's a decision the employee's got to make.
I'm just saying, if you have to maximize your pay at $750,000 in a year, that's $1,000 pre-taxation towards a family or whatever they're making 50, 60 grand a year. It's a big hit.
Yeah.
It's 6%.
If I were voting, and I don't, I would vote in favor of giving it to the families who need it, who are going to be adversely affected, as long as it's there, so that they're affected as little as possible. But again, because that seems to me the right thing to do, and I hear what you're saying. But again, that's a decision the unions have to make.
Where I've been involved in the process, the unions have done a very good job of that. Because the easiest way to pass out the savings would say everybody gets a 2-week or a month premium holiday. And, that's the easiest, everything's done. But in most places, the unions have come in and asked for, we want something where they can sustain it for longer, that can be directed towards those who are feeling the biggest hit.
But to correct me if I'm wrong, the premium is federally deductible. If you don't take that premium, if you take away a month's premium, you lost a deduction federally. So if you take it in the trying to get this right, maximum copay of $750 for a family for a year.
Not a copay, a deductible.
Deductible. That'd be a better situation for your tax liability.
Well, you can set up an account, a way of making that copay or deductible part of an account that can be done on a tax-free basis.
Yeah, Mark's asking, it's
Okay.
not a deductible. When we say deductible, we're not talking tax deduction. We're talking deductible from the payment that the insurance plan makes. So if an insurance plan would pay X amount of dollars for X amount of things, a deductible means you're paying $750 off the top, basically, in addition to your premium. So don't think deduction taxes, think deduction.
But my question is that
money.
deductible? And it all relevant. I know we're getting a little deep into this, but I'm just trying to make sure I don't make a wrong decision.
Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, you walk into the emergency room and you give your name.
That happens every
It's
month.
already $750. By the time you do the x-rays, maybe it's $1,000. Under this plan, if that's the first service you've had in a plan year, and your plan year is 9/1 to 8/31 the following year, and you're an individual person, you pay the first $250 out of that $1,000 bill, and then you pay the $100 deductible for the emergency room, and that's all you pay for that emergency room visit. You've met the deductible for the plan year.
For that one person.
That's right, because you're an individual, because you've met the deductible for the year. Then a lot of other services have no deductible or copay for the balance of that plan year. So that deductible only applies for the first time in a plan year. Then you have copays if you go into the hospital. If you don't go into the hospital, you don't have a copay. Office visits have no copays, no deductibles. I mean, I'll take it back. No deductibles, they have a limit, they have a copay. Preventive care has no deductibles, no copays. So not everything is subject to a deductible and or a copay.
Okay. Ginny, you had a question?
Yeah, I mean, we've had questions around this table about this. Dave's been getting phone calls from individuals who will be affected by it. Is there any way you can set a one night, one Saturday afternoon seminar to explain this?
Sure.
So that when the unions do go and they have to make a choice, how they want to deal with it, it can be an informed choice. I mean, so everyone will have information going in to the time when they have to make a decision.
Yeah, usually what we do is what the law requires and what everybody else is doing is we meet with the leadership of the union. Now, that doesn't have to be one person. We can meet with 5. There's no practical way for us to meet with 1,000 people. We've got 1,000 employees, plus we've got retirees. There's no way we can do that. So we meet with the leadership of the union, and that could be 2, 3, 4, 5 people. And we brief them what the changes are. We give them the changes, and then they go and brief their people, and they decide what they want to bring back to the committee. That's
What I'm talking about is before the selectmen make a vote on this.
Yes.
I just fought him about that.
Huh?
I think I fought him about that about
No, I
half
mean,
an hour ago.
just to have like
I didn't
just
want-
an
Yes, we
informative so that anybody can come, so that, because I don't want to make a decision and then have someone say, hey, I didn't know anything about this. I want to give people the opportunity to learn about this before I make a decision that's going to affect everybody in the town. That's all. I'm just asking if we
Yes,
can
we
have
can do
information
that.
before the selectmen make the vote.
Yes.
And
we
then
can do that.
afterwards, we can make the vote.
So that's what I'm hearing,
That's it.
That's what I said.
The majority.
That's
half an
basically
hour
what I
ago, okay.
said.
It sounds like you're talking about an informational session, an informational session.
Healthcare informational
Yeah.
center based on legislation.
Just so that everybody's clear, because I don't want to gild the lily here and lead anybody astray. What this is all about is the employees are going to pay a lot more money potentially for their health insurance in the form of co-pays, deductibles that are going to increase. Premium is going to go down. Now, if we don't do this, then premium will go up, and employees will pay more for their 25% share. We will explain this in great detail so everybody knows exactly what it is. Do not expect any employee to call you and say thank you. They are not going to do that.
Never do.
They're going to call and they're going to tell you why they don't like this, obviously. So
Except for the
you just
financial
should understand that we will be happy to do that job, but it is not going to make your vote any easier, because no one is going to say thank you for this, except maybe the taxpayers.
When someone calls, I can say, did you attend the seminar? If you didn't attend the seminar, did you talk to someone who did attend the seminar? And the Board of Selectmen will make a decision on, I'm sure we'll attend the seminar too, and also we will make an informed decision. It's up to the people to go back to their unions. If we decide to do this, then they can make an informed decision on their individual unions. I just want to know that everybody had the opportunity to learn. If you learned, good, you can make an informed decision. And if you didn't learn, or if you didn't attempt to learn, then shame on you. So that's why I would like the seminar. Is that something that, Dave?
Yeah, that would be.
Education. That's what we need here. All right.
But in fairness to, we've been through this in our executive session, and I thought we were moving in a direction, because that's what, on the big picture, we looked at.
Mm-hmm.
If we've got to take time to educate and all that stuff, but at the as Kevin said, at the end of the day, it's coming back to the table.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And we have time. It's not like we have till September 1st.
No,
Well, we have
absolutely
60
not.
days.
60 days.
You have a budget.
July.
We will be
July 1st.
writing the
All right.
budget in 4 weeks.
Right.
I need to know, the reason this is coming to you now,
Yeah.
A, because you said to bring it back to you now.
Right.
B, because I have to write a budget in 4 weeks. I have to know if that budget's going to balance or not. This is a major part of that budget balancing.
That's why I'm bringing it
All
up.
right, so
because-
Ginny, you know what, Ginny, I'm glad that you brought it up, that I brought up a half an hour ago, because earlier I heard the answer was, we've got till July. Now we're being told by Kevin that basically this part is going to be in the budget. So
Or not.
maybe we don't have time.
The reason I brought it up, because we did talk about it at the last meeting, the executive session going forward. If the process is to go to the leaders of the union, it's not going to help us.
All I
because
asked was
the
that
leaders
they-
of the union has to go
The
them.
insurance
It's got to
group
come back.
needs to be spoken to, I believe. That's what I think.
And that's mandated by the process. The next step in the process is the Insurance Advisory Committee gets a presentation that explains the changes, the savings, the mitigation amount. All of that is required by the statute. They're the first ones that you go to.
But that's the first people that I wanted to hear from this evening before I made my whether to go or not. To go with this.
I think the process, there's a step being missed. The statute requires a committee to be formed, not the Insurance Advisory Committee, another committee.
Secondary, but the first is the Insurance Advisory Committee. The
Right.
first notice goes to them,
Now,
and the second committee.
the second committee doesn't exist until we send a letter saying you're thinking of doing this. Then the unions write back to me and they say, this is the person who will be on the second committee. What's that called, Leo?
Public Employee Committee.
Public Employee Committee. As it stands right now, I don't have a Public Employee Committee. It doesn't yet exist. I can go back and talk to the Insurance Advisory Committee, and I'm happy to do that. But that does not have a representative of every bargaining unit on it. It has 7 people on it. We have 9 bargaining units plus retirees. The IAC only has 7 people, and frankly, attendance has been very poor. Some people I'm looking at have been very faithful and very participatory, and other unions, have just not shown any interest. I'll bet they'll be very interested when we post this meeting. So I will go dialogue with the IAC, and I will talk to however many other leadership and unions folks would like to dialogue. But I'm just going to tell the board so that you understand. You are going to get, I don't know why, anyone in their right mind who's going to be affected by this is going to do anything but call you up and say, please don't do this, it's going to cost me money. That's the simple fact.
We understand that, Kevin.
Okay.
And the other
So
thing
that we're
is you're
all
also
clear
gonna-
where we're going.
The board's also going to have to understand, you're going to end up giving back some of this on a bargaining side, both side of things too, Leo. I mean, would
But
you
I
not
can't
agree with
conduct that bargaining. I cannot by
Obviously,
law
you-
Until we
conduct
engage
the
in the
bargaining
process, we either
until you
engage
make
in
the
process
decision.
or we don't.
I can't do it.
Right, so
And if we engage in the process, do we have to go step by step?
Yeah.
The process,
Once
engaging
we,
in the process
once we
starts
accept
step by
this,
step.
right, once we accept this, there's no saying, well, I don't want to do that piece of it.
how many
Right.
towns
Could
do
you
you
change
I think we
your
had that
mind?
discussion at the last
I don't know.
meetings,
Could
though.
they change
And that's
their
where we
mind
spent a lot of
later?
time talking, do we want to go in that direction? And the board said yes. Part of that direction is the board needs to give some direction to engage.
Right.
So now we're going back, which is fine if you
To
want to go
just-
backwards to say, let's send it out to the unions to say, it's coming, vet it out, come back to us, and then we'll say, okay, for the second, now we'll go ahead. It just seems like we're going back to go forward since we already had these discussions.
You're right in a way, Jim, but even in that meeting, I said I was not sure if I was for this approach. I said it. And I'm saying that now, and it's not, I'm not politicking. It's just, it's one of those things that affects people greatly, and it doesn't need to, maybe it's one of those things that needs more than one in an executive session, because this has a great effect on people. So that's what I'm saying. We had a 15-minute discussion one night, maybe a half hour. Now we just had another half hour. That's going to affect $750,000. I understand the value of that. So, but it's not going to be a popular one. There's no doubt about that. We can all take our hits now, but it's whether or not it's the right thing to do. And the only other question I have, because the state legislature says it's the right thing to do. Well, you know what? They tried to put a casino in our town, too. All right? So it wasn't a very good popular decision.
But we weren't educated about that,
Yeah,
were
well,
we?
No.
So
now
let's
the
start.
other second, I don't always agree with state legislature. The other thing, out of 100 towns that you said adopted this already,
It's about 100.
Yeah.
right?
about 100, right.
How many rejected it?
None.
None. Easton?
Oh,
I
no,
heard Easton.
there have been a couple.
Well, they have.
Couple,
Yeah,
10,
yeah, yeah.
20. Anybody got that number for
Yeah,
me?
it's a small amount. It's much, very, very small amount that I've rejected. By the way, if it gives you any comfort, you can go through the process, and you can make the changes to the extent of the so-called benchmark plans. It gives you the ability to do that. If ultimately you're uncomfortable going that far, you can go less than that far. But it gives you the ability, and it puts a ceiling on where you
So
can
we
go.
can.
So you can do that, but you can't. You don't have the leverage of going that far without adopting this evening and starting that process. You always have the ability to back off, or frankly, if you get in the midst of some discussions, at some point in time, maybe there'll be a discussion of trying to do something a different way. But until you start down this path, you won't. Those other options won't be apparent.
So this is a vote to engage, not to...
So there are things that
Not-
we
not
can
to
go
go to the
backwards.
limit. Not-
So we
right.
can go backwards on some of these things. That's what I was
It
asking.
gives you the ability to go to make the changes to the extent that the benchmark plans have changed, and But ultimately, at the end of the day, you have the ability to do it in your discretion. You don't have to do it. It just gives you the ability to do it.
I had one town that adopted Section 21. They went to the unions for what they wanted to do. The unions countered with a different offer. The town said, we like that. So they accepted the union's counteroffer.
That's what I was
They
asking.
didn't go
if
as
you could
far
do that.
as the benchmark.
It's happened quite a bit, actually.
Right.
So, this
So
is,
it
this
is
is
all
what Leo had
negotiable.
emailed me before the meeting. Anyone else need glasses? This is getting worse.
There you go. There you go.
The town of Foxborough hereby elects to engage the process to change health insurance benefits under Mass General Law 32B 21 through 23. Just engage the process. So if the process is we do the full extent of what the state legislation allows, that's an end result. If we get in there and everything explodes, it doesn't go anywhere, we meet
Still have
halfway.
that option.
But that process, I don't know when you say have a meeting with the unions, and the unions have a meeting with the other 1,000 people.
Happens
When
all the
it
time.
comes back to the unions, and it comes back to us. Is that what we're looking for, or are we just looking for having Kevin meet with the union reps? And then what? Do we wait for feedback? It just seems, I don't want to get into a process where it's going to be months, and it's, I don't know what direction we're.
I think we should
to go into.
adopt this because we know that we don't have to go to the full limit, and then that allows the communication to happen, and we can
Yeah.
take our time, but it allows us to prepare the budget.
I think that the
What option would you
No,
like
Yeah,
to
A, B, and C.
budget on?
Just like
What I like
last
about
year,
this
you have
is-
A,
Of
B,
this,
and
all
C.
of it, you 5 people have the unfortunate chore making this decision, and no one's going to, well, let me put it this way.
Once again, they pass.
It is unlikely that any employee is going to say thank you. However, there is a $750,000 savings involved in this for the taxpayers. It is the case that $750,000 saving is achieved because employees will pay more for their insurance. Now, again, speaking as an employee, are any of these particularly onerous or overbearing or incredibly costly? Well, if depends, I guess, on who you are and how much you make. But at the end of the day, if you do not contemporize your health plan, i.e. you do not change it over time, and remember, the changes being made are what thousands and thousands and thousands of municipal employees are already making. There's 30 or 40 cities and towns in the GIC, and all the state employees in the GIC. So you're only doing the changes that thousands of people have voluntarily enrolled in who are in the GIC, the state plan. So at the end of the day, I would submit to both the employees and to you, either contemporize the plan, i.e. change the benefits to at least begin moving in the direction of where the private sector is already at, or premiums are going to go up astronomically. At the end of the day, the insurance company is going to get the exact same amount of dollars out of you. They're going to get whatever your benefit plan design is, times how much utilization there is, plus administration. That's how it works. So, we have very, very benefit-rich plans. We have extremely benefit-rich plans. Anyone will tell you that who understands anything about the industry. And the reason is because prior to this law, we couldn't bargain change very effectively. We had to do it through 150E, and it doesn't work, frankly, very well. I know we could debate that, but in my opinion, it doesn't. That's why the legislature finally said, okay, we're going to give you this tool to let you do it unilaterally, not through bargaining. So, I'll talk. I'm a little confused about what you want, but I will certainly talk to the unions and explain it. But I don't think you should hold out any hope that after that explanation, the situation's going to change. All you're going to get is even more people calling us, telling us don't do
I
this.
think this conversation could add, ended a long time ago if I had read that email from you to Jim saying to engage. Doesn't say to adopt. The word was adopt I was hearing, not engage.
Well, I don't want to be dishonest with you.
I don't want to mislead you. You are adopting the statute, which allows you to engage in the process of making plan design changes, which ultimately you can dictate. Doesn't mean you have to dictate them. You could have it does require a dialogue with the Insurance Advisory Committee and the Public Employee Committee. During that dialogue, often what happens is different approaches are discussed, but ultimately it gives you the ability to dictate the changes to the extent of the GIC plans. That's what you're doing here. But to get to the IAC and tell them what you have in mind, to get to the Public Employee Committee and have that process, this is the step to take now to get that process going.
Now that's clear. All right.
I sense you need more time.
No, I don't. I think Lorraine was prepared to make a motion. Are you not?
I read that.
Sure.
I move that the town of Foxborough hereby elects to engage in the process to change health insurance benefits under Mass General Law, Chapter 32B, subsection 21 through 23. Can I get a second?
Oh, I thought you were still going.
No.
Motion.
Thought you were breathing.
Motion
No.
to engage in the
Hold on.
process. Is there a second? I'll second it. Any more discussion?
I'm just not sure that I'm educated enough on this to make a vote right now. I thought engaged meant engaged, not adopt. But by saying that they say I'm adopting it, when I say engage in it, I think I need to move it to the next meeting. I know we have a full schedule, but it's not the public input I want. It's a full understanding of the math involved that I need to get to myself and figure out, and I'll be reaching out to certain other people to figure that out.
Just some advice. If you vote this down, you're going to lose a year.
Then we just table it.
Well, I'm just saying, if you vote this down, this is your opportunity to do it for the upcoming. If you vote it down,
All the facts are coming out real clear now. Now we're going to lose it for a year. Why didn't you just say that before we made a motion?
Well, because you're better off if you're having some reservations to study it further. But if you take a vote not to adopt the statute, then you may lose the ability, effective next September 1st, to make the changes which are going to save the $750,000 with a quarter of that, a quarter of that at least going to the employees.
So then I would suggest that Lorraine withdraw her motion.
So the motion was made, second, it's under discussion. We'll open it to discussion if Lisa wants to add.
Can I just say one thing? This is the earliest we've ever started health insurance discussions, and we've always been accused of, I don't want to use the word accused, but always, had to push it out. We are now starting almost a year in advance for the employees, for everybody. This is a good thing, not a bad thing, to start this early, and if we push it out further, then the snowball happens again. I just want to say we're very fortunate to be able to start the process as soon as possible, and I would ask that you would think in terms of that when you're making a decision. Thanks.
So under the discussion, if we do vote this down, it is going to push it back a year. If Lisa is what she's saying, we're starting early. If we want to, we'll vote on that motion. If it fails, maybe there's another motion to reconsider, and we take a few weeks or a couple meetings that we reach out.
Well, if there isn't a consensus on the board to move on this tonight, I would suggest to the board the motion and second be withdrawn. You take some time to think about it. I had already planned, Lisa and I talked today about getting an insurance advisory committee meeting put together, but frankly, given the poor attendance we've had, I needed the catalyst to be able to say to the IAC, look, this is serious, we need you to come, we need you to pay attention, we need to dialogue with you, we need to find out what you think of this. So I dare say whatever you do tonight, when we call that IAC meeting, we're going to get good attendance because people understand now what's in play here.
Well, it's a good wake-up.
Right. So if you decide you need a little more time to think about this, take a little more time. But I thought this was settled, frankly. So, Randy and I have been we're well into the fiscal 14 budget and starting to do numbers. And this is a gigantic moving piece to that budget. So if you defeat this tonight,
Your fiscal 14 budget just got thrown out of whack to the tune of $750,000, folks.
Well, Kevin, all right, we're not going to defeat it. We'll probably take your advice. I do have one question though. When is the last meeting that you had with the insurance advisory group? When is the last meeting that you had?
Lisa, do you know when the last IUC meeting was? February? February sounds about right. It was winter, I know that.
8 months. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
Yeah, about 6 months.
I know Todd Kaiser, 42 Adams Street taxpayer, as well as FEA rep. We had one slated for May, but it was called at 10 a.m., so no one was able to attend it because we were all working. I don't think the superintendent would be pleased with me leaving my job teaching to go. I was working. I was there. So, I mean, yes, it was sparsely attended, but we haven't met very frequently. And I agree, probably the one we met last year was about half the members there. We all knew this was relatively coming. I did tell my members that something was coming. I didn't get the deductible part right. And I guess my own personal fear out of this is I know there's that mitigation fund for that first year, and that's very admirable. But when the money runs out, what happens then to those people who are accessing, the insurance at a higher amount because they're sick or their family's sick? I mean, that's my greatest fear. We are public employees. We have given up the opportunity to go and make our personal fortunes. Whether people actually make it or not is debatable, to serve the public. And it is that sacrifice that we're making financially to serve the public that we always hope that we are benefited in some way, shape, or form. And obviously with increased cost, that is deteriorating over time. The retirees' benefits were taken away and so forth. This is really obviously up to you. I don't know how I feel regarding this. In one sense, the Insurance Advisory Committee is only advisory. We have no actual authority.
Right.
We could
But
say
advise.
whatever we wish. It means absolutely nothing. The Public Employee Committee at least has some authority to engage in conversation. At least all the members would be represented. All the associations and unions would be represented to meet with you. It really comes down, in my opinion, is a trust of you as selectmen to listen to the PEC.
Mm-hmm.
If you choose, if there is a disagreement from the PEC directed towards you, by engaging in this, you have the authority to ignore it. That's how I'm understanding this, and choose to adopt this fully. That's correct?
Yes.
Okay. However, if you do engage in this, then at least you'll hear a representation from all the PEC on what the unions feel would be best for everybody. We can go back to the IAC all we want. I don't think anything's going to be beneficial to that because it hasn't been at all anyway.
So you think the best thing for us to do is go ahead and engage it, and that way the new committee would be formed, correct?
It's a roll of the dice on
Yep.
for me to say yes on that part. It's
Yep.
a trust of you
Right.
because my great concern is I have to represent my members.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to protect them as best as I can. This legislation takes that away from me, which is the legislation's job, and puts it in your hands. So really it's coming down to how do you feel about listening, to the membership, the PEC, in their evaluations upon what changes should be made? That's how I view it.
Well stated.
Right, and I'm pretty sure Ginny and I are on that page.
Yeah, you changed the role. You are not held to go to the max. You're also not held to limit a mitigation fund. You could agree ultimately to do a mitigation fund beyond the 25%. They can only make you do 25%. So you still do have some options open down the line. But to get, you do ultimately, he's correct on this, ultimately if you decide that it's going to be 25% and you're going to go to the max, it's your decision.
Yep.
You can do that. But it's a discretionary decision. Prior model, you had no ability to do that.
Right.
You'd be bargaining for months and
Exactly.
months and months over one
Yes.
copay, and
Yep.
at the end of the day, this process is supposed to be compressed. Let's cut to the chase. Let's get the mitigation fund.
And
How do
no
you want
back
to
and
spend it?
forth, yep.
Right. But it's a heavily intensive information process. No one is going to say, I don't understand after this is done, because they don't give you the option. There's a regulation that says everything that has to be in the notice, and the regulation is a page long. So everybody's going to understand it. They may not agree with it, but they're going to understand it.
So, does anyone feel like this motion should still be withdrawn?
I'm more comfortable now. But that's only me, I don't know.
Well, if you're not comfortable, if anyone's not comfortable with it going forward, you need to speak, because if it gets voted down again, it's going to sit for another year.
Right.
So I don't mind withdrawing if you want more time, but if we're going to go forward and it
Well,
gets voted down, it's a
We
little
can
bit of a
always
detriment.
move to reconsider right after we vote on it, like so many at town meeting try to.
I just wouldn't advise that. It's a new statute, and I'd be a little worried about it.
You'd rather have all of us in agreement, would you rather have all of us in agreement on this?
Well, I mean, certainly a majority, but I wouldn't want to play the vote it down and then reconsider. You might be subject then to someone saying, this is not the type of thing that you can reconsider. It's, the statute's designed to say yea or nay, engage in the process. I'd rather see if you really have reservations or there's something that can...
Can I take a straw poll? Can I take a straw vote?
No.
I think if you have reservations, you'd be better off to...
during the discussion.
You'd be better off to withdraw the motion and then...
I'm probably ready to do it, since there is,
You can state your intent, but you can't do a straw poll.
I intend to probably vote this. I feel much better knowing that we don't have to go, stretch it to the ultimate all the time. That we have some control over what we do.
I would vote to engage.
Any more discussion?
If voting to engage, accepting this means doing, is doing like a seminar, information seminars, and that's part of the process.
It's mandated.
Okay.
You have to go to the Insurance Advisory Committee with all the data laid out, and then you have to go to the Public Employee Committee, same process, and there is a negotiation with the Public Employee Committee. It's how is the mitigation fund to be spent. Frankly, you can negotiate as to whether you want to do the 25%, but I think it's pretty apparent that the town's going to do the 25%. So then it's how is the money going to be spent. They basically can dictate that.
All right, so the motion was made to engage in the process. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? 4-1 carries.
Thanks, Leo, for your patience.
We'll begin the process,
Thanks for your
and I
advice.
will keep you up to date on the progress.
I admit that was a healthy debate.
Thank you, Lou.
It takes too long, but it's very important.
We take 2 minutes.
All right, where are we, Mr. Chairman? Lost my... Town manager's special town meeting warrant closing date. We'll just skip that.
Okay.
Oh,
I think that's what we have to talk about. This is the last thing.
PG members yet.
Right.
Nothing under that.
We'll get that.
And we don't have any reason for that, because
I'll be in touch.
Well, yeah, the only reason I'm thinking is, well.
Do you mind coming back up, Dick? Thanks.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Council Gellerman, this is further discussion on the setting the date for a special town meeting and warrant closing date. And then going back to a little bit of the discussion of the open meeting law.
and the board, just clear, we already agreed to dissolve the committee, right?
Yes, you did.
All right. There's, in my view, no way, and listen very close, Mr. AdCom personnel, that this board or any negotiating committee is going to be ready for a December special town meeting to put forward anything on any kind of amendment or article from Patriots Place or hotels or whatever. There's just not enough time. I've been down sitting here for too many years now to try and think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen, especially if I'm part of it. So I think we need to think of some time. If you see no need, there's no budgetary, no contracts to vote on for a special in December, Kevin. What do we got for articles? Other than that, if you're right,
There's funding. There's funding of contracts.
That's important.
Yes, I would not represent to you that they alone would justify calling a special town meeting, but they are serious pieces of business to take up. If we don't do them now, we do them later, but, they got to get done this fiscal year.
You get the town hall debate.
There's the town hall debate. There's the zoning articles that were on the back end of the annual town meeting that didn't get dealt with, that have to come back up. And, I'm sorry, but I didn't bring my notes of the other things. But
I'll bring it up, the turf field.
Turf field.
There's enough to have a special in December. You know what, I'd rather have two short ones than 1:32 to midnight and carry it over like we did a year ago to the next night.
Sure, that's up to you.
So
they're not all that expensive, right? $2,000 or $3,000 expenses, somewhere in that range, to conduct a town meeting. So, given the
also
magnitude of business,
if we can get rid of a lot of the smaller ones to deal more adequately with the one in May, that helps out.
Cleans your warrant up in May a lot, yeah.
So I will propose that we do have a special town meeting in December. What are we thinking about, the 11th? Is that the date?
Well, it's really up to you, because if you go on the traditional Monday, then the number of dates in December are really limited, because you can't go the 3rd, because Dick has a prior engagement, which in fairness to him is another town meeting. And the moderator is on vacation. So that night really is out. You take it to the following Monday, and I forget why that doesn't work, but I think it's a holiday, I'm sure.
17th was before.
Was there a football game that Monday?
So we had come up with
We talked on the Tuesday, the 11th.
The 11th.
Yeah, the staff had come up with Tuesday, the 11th, as seeming like the best date, and everybody seemed to agree that was a pretty good date. It's your regular meeting night, so, So we suggested that if you wanted a December. I don't think there's anything sacred about Monday or Tuesday. There's no bylaw that restricts you, and the statute allows you to pick it any time you want.
So what's the availability of the auditorium, the high school? They having any
Don't
holiday?
know, but
That's a good point.
That's a point every time, we always forget it.
Yeah, it's a good
It always
point.
sneaks up on us.
She just left. Want me to go get her? I can see her.
Well, she doesn't. She's not going to have a calendar.
No?
She's not the person.
Any more than I would.
But Dick did bring up, and we have talked about this many times, our senior folks out there that would like to attend town meeting and seem to not be able to. And I know I'm going to hear, well, at the sports or this or that for the kids, but, we're a pretty well-run machine town, and I think that if we got the word out to the schools, like, hey, can you just postpone your game that Saturday, and maybe we could have it on the 8th. I just,
December?
I don't know. Do you want to talk to the seniors? Because I'm just hearing from the seniors, and there are a lot of our voters that won't be able to drive at nighttime or something, or let's try to figure something out so that we can get them out there.
I do remember those discussions, and it did go, weekends better, but then people said there are people
Right,
away
and
weekends.
puts the young against the old, the rich against the poor.
Yeah.
It always comes down to that, and I hate that because that's not fair to this town. That's not what this town is built on.
Yeah, I know.
So-
But the problem is with the month of December. Every weekends are.
Holidays.
December is holiday month, no matter what.
Maybe,
We amended in May. We try to, for the annual, I agree with you, Linda. I brought it up last year, or my first year back, I think it was last year. And it's a major concern that needs to be addressed.
Well, it's not going to be.
But, you know what? We're moving closer. But December, to have it on a weekend in December is just not going to work out. Everybody's just cooking in December. Look what we went through last December,
Mm-mm. If you had it at 8 o'clock in the morning, really? Are there that many Christmas
8 o'clock in the morning?
or holiday
We're going to
parties?
come, period.
People are
There
going
is
to be
a
hard
lot.
pressed to come at 8 in the morning.
It's It's just not going
Right.
to, I can see noon.
Can seniors ask people to give them a ride? I mean, we do have the senior bus, but that can take some people. But also, I mean, can you ask your kids to give you a ride to town meeting? Can you ask maybe
I don't
your
have
neighbor?
I don't have any kids, so
Sometimes it's
I
not
had
the,
parents, and I used to take them
but
places.
sometimes it's not the drive, it's the late hour.
Right.
If you're finishing in at midnight, you look at the
Yeah.
people, and physically, people just can't stay that late, and it's worse for the elderly.
So,
Some towns do it on weekends.
and I think that's that
Walpole
that
does.
whole thing needs to
Walpole
be
does it
looked
Saturday
at.
at noon.
Needs to you go around. Lots of towns have them, but
Well,
we
you know what,
have-
let's get
we have
through
more
this
pies
one.
than I thought.
Let's just get through this one, pick a date, but I'll tell you, it's going to be a good discussion for the next one, as far as I'm concerned, especially when we had the special dick for the voting on the stadium. That was not on a Monday. That was a Saturday, wasn't it?
No, it was that night.
It was a weekday.
It was a weekday.
That night, yeah.
Day.
Weekday, yes.
Nighttime? Well,
Yeah, it was night. Yeah.
December 6th.
I remember I got up in the morning, I couldn't get dressed until 6 o'clock. I was so busy.
So,
But it was a weekday, yeah.
so the 11th seems to work out on, as far as the board's concerned, and can we have Chris or Sandra reach out to the school?
Yeah,
The
you
11th.
can set a date, and then we can, dependent upon the availability of the auditorium, we check tomorrow morning, and then we'll shoot an email out to you and just let you know, yeah or no. If it doesn't work, then we'll come back in 2 weeks and we'll have to pick a different date, but I'll come with a whole list of availability.
when does the warrant close?
Well, that's the next question. As soon as you set a date, then you got to set the warrant closing date.
Need 30 days, right?
I mean, December 11th, it's now, the 16th of October, so you're not going to be able to keep that warrant open very long, or you're going to have some very unhappy AdCom members.
We have a lot of unhappy selectmen, too. Well, everybody's
Well,
not happy. It's real.
the problem with special town meetings is nobody ends up being happy, believe me. And
Can we,
I'm going to get chewed up by everybody. Fantastic. I
That's your
love my job.
Should we close it by the 31st of October? Close it by the end of October?
Well, we've got quite a few warrant articles, and right now they are really up in the air, and I would be scared to death to try to close it in 2 weeks, because I think you'll end up with half the topics that you need on there, because we just don't have time to pull them together. I'd say we need at least you're writing a lot of these, Dick, so 3 weeks?
I would close it if you can get your publication done by mid-November.
Isn't it 30 days? You have to be 30 days, right?
No, you
That
don't.
gives us 3 weeks. I mean, that's completely, because you have Thanksgiving in there. That's not realistic.
Yeah,
See, there's no easy solutions to this, folks. There's just no good solutions.
We have to be done 2 weeks by town bylaw. We have to be done 2 weeks ahead of time to get the stuff into the paper. So now, we're down to, if you get it done in the middle of November, we're down to 1 week of work.
I think October 30th is what it's going to have to be.
That gives us 2 weeks.
And then we
It
just
is what it
move
is.
It's
So when
what-
we're saying
no.
closing, just so we're clear, the date closes, so all the warrant articles have to be drafted and
No,
submitted.
the warrant closing date is the deadline for citizens petitions. That's all it is.
But it's your
It
date.
does not
You-
bind you
Yeah.
from putting something in the warrant. The practical closing date, which always occurs after the literal one, is what is the appetite of the advisory committee for how much time they reasonably need. And with Thanksgiving week in there, and a report that has to be delivered 2 weeks prior, but we know that very often that report 2 weeks prior is not 100% of the warrant articles. In fact, I don't think it ever is. But we like to get as many as we can. You're probably 1 week into October would be a fair compromise. The Friday of the first week of October.
November,
I'm sorry.
Friday,
That gives
November
me
2nd.
That gives us 3 weeks to pull together whatever we got. And then whatever we got, we got. I already told everybody,
10 to 12 hours,
don't even
right?
say hold a space. Because if you go the first week in November, what that means is the next meeting, I'm putting a complete warrant in front of you. Now, that means you probably won't have time for that topic meeting where you look at the topics and say, yeah, no, you're going to have to do it all in one night. Every warrant article is in or out, and if they're out, we're going to go right in the other room, take them out on a word processor computer, and come in here and give you a fresh warrant to sign, because you got to sign it that night, and it got to get posted the next day, and it's got to go to the AdCom right after.
Can you give me the rough draft of what you have, just so I know who to invite?
I can't, because I've got an endless number of articles that I know perfectly well are not going to be ready, and so I can give you this giant thing, and you can start.
You are 90% sure.
Because you got to put them on your schedule.
You know what that means,
Larry. We got to start having those people in. Because
I'll give you hints.
We never vote on the same night we see something. So, I mean, we're just running out of runway here.
You can't appease everybody, so that's why I try not to anymore. You just got to set it for the 30th. If people don't have the articles ready, I mean, every year it's like 2 people come in, we want to get our road approved by the town. You know what? You just missed your quota. That's it.
Well, Larry, which would you rather have, December 8th, or would you rather have January 8th?
Oh, December.
Okay, so...
December 11th.
11th, I'm sorry. So I'm just saying, like...
Saturday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
No, well, what I'm saying is, if we do it in January, again, we're going to bump into our big one in May, right? So
I'm not asking for a finished warrant. I'm just asking for
a list.
Try to give me
whatever we got.
Think that you have some confidence will actually make it onto the warrant, so I can start to schedule.
Well, we know those ones that were in the back of the warrant before; those have to be
Town
done.
Hall, the turf field,
The zoning ones.
Water and sewer in, all of that.
The old zoning ones.
The zoning, I've talked to Sharon already.
So close it by the 30th of October?
Do we have room for...
Kevin, I have no sympathy for those who don't have their articles ready. I really don't.
Well, the benefit of October 30th is it'll be a short warrant.
Yeah,
So
that's
good.
fine.
And also, I mean, with all due respect to the AdCom, we're meeting every single week because we've got all the liquor violations.
Right.
And we've got a full agenda, I'm sure. Something's going to give, so we're going to have to give a pushback to all the other stuff that we have on here. So it's going to be shared misery.
We're all going to feel the pain.
Two quick topics that were brought to me by board members, not our board members, planning board and advisory committee people. One is, how do we get the information out to the public to say the warrant article process is closed on if it's October 30th?
It basically goes out by camera. There is no, and we can put it on the website and all that, but, I mean...
One of the members is saying, I'll be very brief. This is what he had sent to me. A request for the Board of Selectmen to consider a policy change or directive to the town manager regarding the town warrant process. While we don't have many citizens' articles, I believe the process that another town uses to notify the citizens, including the board members of warrant articles openings, is prudent. At the very least, this needs to be a better communication. They're talking about putting it in the newspaper, and there's a newspaper advertisement.
A legal ad?
Yeah.
Nobody reads those. But I'll be happy to
this is coming from 2 planning board members that have been doing it for a while, saying that the process, there's a lot of uncertainty and unknown. So
you'd like
nice
it in
to say
legal
goes over
ads?
the TV.
We'll put in the legal ads.
It doesn't have to be a legal ad. Something in the newspaper that says Town of Foxborough, a special town warrant article.
Oh, we do
closes
that
on
every
such and
time.
such.
That's always in is anybody saying it's not in the newspaper? It's always in the newspaper. Frank,
The warrant
if you,
is, but...
The warrant is, we're talking about
Closing.
heads up.
Closing time.
to let citizens
the
know.
closing
Yeah.
is always in the newspaper.
Okay.
It goes in the same night that you call the special town meeting. It's always in there. Never not been in there. But
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. It was brought up by people that have been doing it for a while from the other
Well,
side.
people, not
Frank-
everybody reads the reporter,
Frank,
but
I'll
they
tell
might
everybody
watch
right now.
cable, or they might go on our website and
we do
things
the
like
best.
that.
It's on the website. It's broadcast in this meeting. Frank always has a great story about it, and he always puts that in there. And I don't know what else we could do.
Of when the warrant article
I mean,
closes?
here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know.
remember ever
If
seeing
I'm a
that.
citizen and I think I've got a warrant article that I want to put on the warrant, and I'm not paying attention that there's a special town meeting, I'm not calling here to say, when's the deadline? I mean, that's pretty unlikely. Now, if I'm just somebody who has some idea, vague idea about it, and doesn't take the time. I know there's a special coming, and I don't call up and say, when's that warrant close? I mean, really? Come on, that doesn't happen. Who are we trying to satisfy here?
You know, it's education because there's a lot of folks out there that are becoming more involved, thank goodness, with town government, and they don't know. So they might not know where to look for it.
If you have a suggestion where you'd like me to put it, I'll be happy to.
I have.
Oh, I got plenty of suggestions.
Would you open that? So, anyways, I'm thinking not just, on the cable that
the advertisement for the warrant closing date. Very funny.
But
is the warrant closes on the 30th? Attention
back
all.
to the discussion that we started
Thank God
with.
Frank's not in our room.
The discussion we started. He watches.
He'll review this.
We just voted to rescind the vote to have 2 selectmen on the committee, and we've got to figure out where to go with this. So.
Kevin's going to appoint a committee.
Jim, what you voted was to dissolve the committee. That's a good thing. Just to recap, you've already voted to negotiate. That you've done. All that's happening here is that we're changing the format of the establishment of the group to do that negotiation. Because I've advised you that out of an abundance of caution that the way we formulated it in the first place could be subject to violation of the open meeting. So all you're doing is appointing somebody. Doesn't have to be Kevin, doesn't have to be me, but somebody to negotiate on behalf of the town. That person has the authority to bring with them to the negotiations those persons that he needs to have help. And whoever you appoint will understand what your wishes are. It's that simple.
And you wrote a motion.
I did.
I move that the persons appointed by the board at its meeting of September 25th.
Yeah, that part's already been done.
We already did that.
What's the second
motion?
So you just want to move that Kevin
No, that's you didn't know.
becomes.
This is a new one.
All right, let me have the
Dick,
updated.
I don't know if I have.
I think I might have it.
I'm sorry, but
It was in
I don't have
last
the
sheet
old
you
one.
gave us. Striking.
Can I say something? I still
There it
have
is.
some reservations, really, about,
And I left out who you appoint.
I still am not clear on how this change in selection process makes us no longer subject to open meeting law.
Okay.
I'm not sure, I just don't feel comfortable that it passes the smell test.
Well-
Because I feel like it's the same process in the same direction going on. So,
I understand that, but in fact, you're appointing one person. That's all you're
That's all
doing.
we're
You're
doing.
appointing one person. to
No other
negotiate.
votes come from
That
us.
person it can't be a subcommittee. It's just a person. Okay. Technically, if you read my motion, it says nothing beyond that in terms of who that person adds to the negotiating team. It'll be up to that person.
I think what the concern would be is if the meeting happens, it's the identical meeting as before, except one was appointed and the other 2 selectmen that go there are not appointed.
That's right. And the selection of the group is done by the person you're appointing, not by yourselves. That is a difference.
So the fact that there's 2 selectmen, it's not the majority, and go through that process.
Yes.
Now to get that information back to the board.
They can do
How
what
does
they can do what they
information
want,
come back to
because
the board?
now the creation of that group is not a subcommittee. Therefore, it's not subject to the open meeting law. Therefore, there's no prohibition on reporting.
Silly. All right. We can have the discussion if you want after I make the motion, if you want to continue it, if you don't mind. I move to appoint Kevin Pecos to meet with representatives of the craft organization, KO, from time to time for the purpose of conducting negotiations with the KO. Said person appointed shall not have the authority to enter into any agreement with the craft group shall periodically report back to the Board of Selectmen and shall keep the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners, the Planning Board, and such other public officials as appropriated information of the status of such discussions. The Board of Selectmen shall consider such reports subject to the requirements of the open meeting law. That's the official.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
So when that group reports back to our board, that's in public session?
Yes, it is, because it's, what makes it in a public session is that it's a meeting of the Board of Selectmen. You're subject to the open meeting law. To the extent that the issues that we discuss with you are themselves appropriate for private discussion, then that's what we'll do. But if they're not, then we'll discuss it in public. For example, if we came back to you and want to talk to you about real estate matters, that's appropriate for an executive session. That's what we do. But it's the fact that we're meeting with the Board of Selectmen. The negotiating team is meeting with the Selectmen. It's the Selectmen's meeting at that point that makes it subject to the open meeting law.
Again, I think anyone that would come in and look at the four people sitting down across the table from the craft organization, I'm concerned, how does that... The purpose of the committee is the same. It doesn't change.
That's right. The purpose is the same. You're doing the public business.
That's
Nevertheless, because the way you're constituted, you're not subject to the open meeting law.
And you know,
I would only feel comfortable having that in writing from the AG's office. I truly would only feel comfortable having
they're not
that
going
in
to give you that.
They're not gonna,
You know, but no, and I understand. But you know what? Let's give it 1 week.
I can't. I will not. I feel we violated open meeting law the first time. I'm truly not comfortable doing it.
Tire tracks in my neck.
Are you speaking?
I would be very comfortable doing it with it in writing from the AG's office because I can't take a snapshot of that and see how
Lorraine, what I'm telling you is what I spoke to the AG about this afternoon. Just so you'll know. That's where it came from.
He's saying the Attorney General won't answer your letter in writing.
He'll give us a generic advisory opinion, but not specific to us.
But you had earlier said that you would take their response and put it on letterhead to the...
I will do that, sure.
I'm not playing a game, put it in writing and we'll do it, but it's a quandary. We've got one board member. We've got a couple meetings that we've just had. We've got stuff that happened with the school committee last year that everyone's looking at this. We go in a direction, and we're going to take 5 steps back if we go in the wrong direction right now. You're smiling, but...
The only reason I'm smiling is because I've had... Council has been sitting here now for 4 hours, and he's told us the same thing that he told us 3 hours ago, is that he's spoken to the AG's office. I'm going by what town council is advising us, and Mark has made the motion. Honestly, I just, you know what, you don't have to always agree, but you better trust your attorney when he comes in here. That's how I feel.
We just went through a process of several meetings, and it was the wrong way to go, too. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to make the same mistake twice.
I think...
Having to go backwards.
Again, I think I still...
I'm still a strong advocate that 90% of this should be an open public anyways. So, until it comes to real property negotiations. But what I'm saying is, we got to give it a shot, Lorraine. You brought it up. Let's fix it. We fixed it.
I don't feel that it's fixed. I don't feel that it's fixed.
Sure, Kevin.
Let me help you out here.
Oh, boy.
Why don't you keep the committee just the way it is? I don't care how you appoint it, whether you appoint it or Dick appoints it or I appoint it. Keep it 2 board members may. The board appoints it. And then we're going to have to do this in public session. Now, do I see that as necessarily a bad thing? Here's what I see, exactly what Dick said earlier. I agree with him. Having a negotiation this sensitive in a public meeting is impossible.
Tie our hands.
Because there are things, and I will not say them, that Mark and Lorraine as members of the bargaining team, we had one session, you were told that you would not have heard in a public session, most assuredly. You know what I'm talking about. Because it is the nature of business that they will not disclose in public certain things that will harm their business interests. And so having a discussion about the things that are on that term sheet, which is a public document, and having it in public and having the expectation that you are going to have a full and rich discussion is not a rational thought. It cannot happen. So I would propose there is an alternative. We negotiate in public. If we get to a subject matter, real property, then we go into executive session. Well, actually, no, you can't go into executive session because the party that you're negotiating with is the very party whom disclosure of the public's position would be destructive to. So you can't very well say we can't go into executive session to protect the public's interest when the people you're negotiating with are the people you're protecting it from. So there will be no circumstances that I can think of under which you will be able to go into executive session, the negotiating committee. But there are subjects which can be dealt with either directly by council to their council or by the town manager to their staff. I am not constrained by the open meeting law. Town council is not constrained by the open meeting law. Moreover, he's protected by council privilege. So we can have those sensitive conversations. The problem is, I don't honestly know how in the heck I can report back to you. Counsel can report back to you in executive session under privilege, but he can't report to you under privilege a topic which is not one of the 8 executive session topics. So we have quite a dilemma here. I guess what I'm telling you, I don't have an easy way to fix this for you. The AG doesn't have an easy way to fix for you. And so it comes down to this. Either we're going to do it in public with the way we've been doing it, with all the warts that that's got. And it's got some advantages because the public knows what we're doing, for better or for worse. Or you're going to have to pass this motion, I guess. And that's kind of your choice. And it's not an elegant one, Dick. I don't know if I misstated it, but I think that's your choice.
Elegant. Frankly and respectfully, it's not all that complicated either. I've advised you as to a method to proceed with negotiations that you already decided to do that, in my opinion, based upon a conversation with the Attorney General, is the safest way to do it and not be in violation of the open meeting law. There may be advantages to the town to having this negotiation. It's as though you're going into it thinking we're going to get beat up. There may be advantages to it. There may not, but you're never going to find out unless you get into it. So I'm a bit surprised by this. I think it's respectfully not that difficult.
Lorraine, is your concern that you don't have it on paper?
Because of how I am viewing this, I think, as a workaround, that is my concern, that I don't have it on paper.
So if the AG's advisory was presented to you in paper, would you feel safe? Would you feel
They
better
put in
about
writing
that?
that approach is
They're not going
is
to
the
do that.
alternative, then that is...
Lorraine, could I suggest to you that you vote the motion? I will
Subject to.
Yeah, subject to. I'll get what I can for you from the AG. I'll give you my opinion, and then at least we'll have the ability to get started.
Okay.
If that meets with the board's approval, then what I would suggest to the board you do, Dick will give you his opinion. He'll get, hopefully, the AG's opinion this week. We currently have a negotiating session set up for next Tuesday night. If by Tuesday night we either do not have the opinion from the AG, or once having received it, any of you still have misgivings, we will cancel that negotiating session. I will communicate with Jim, put it back on the agenda for the 30th, and you can discuss it again prior to the conduct of any further negotiations.
Can I just make one other
That seem fair?
It does. Just one other comment, though. I mean, in terms of the actual negotiation piece of it, and for what qualifies executive session, discussing liquor licenses.
Not executive
is not
session.
Executive session material. So again, I just feel like it's another piece of the puzzle that caused me concern to begin with. That.
But here's how that is a slippery slope. So let's say you're discussing liquor licenses, and we say in the negotiations, we would like the following changes in policing at the stadium made. You are now discussing the deployment of security personnel.
That I understand.
And at that point, it becomes a very cumbersome question. Who are we, in whose interest is it for us to not reveal that conversation? The people with whom we're negotiating? Probably not. In this case, it's the would-be criminal who we're trying to change the security to prevent from doing bad things. So in that case, you probably could go into executive session, ironically, with the people you're negotiating with. But, different case in point, you're having a negotiation, and the subject comes up about sale of real properties, the billboards or something, or the rights to the billboards. Now, in that case, the party in whose interest it is to not disclose the information to is the people on the other side of the table, the craft organization. You can't go into executive session because you go talk to the very people that you need to keep the information from. So you wouldn't be able to. So it's going to be, I can live with that environment, frankly. I can live with it. It's going to introduce a degree of difficulty and cumbersomeness, which is going to have to be worked around. But if this is what the board wants, then we'll just have to accept that difficulty. On the other hand, if you come down on the side of we want a pretty free hand to be able to keep these negotiations confidential until they're ready to come to the board publicly, then I think you get the opinion from Dick, you get the opinion from the AG, you pass this motion that he's described, and we rely on the AG's letter that, in fact, this is not a workaround. This is, in fact, their will for how you do it if you want to do it that way.
So there's a motion made. It probably has to be amended for the condition of getting something in writing. Does anyone have an objection to someone speaking under the discussion?
Speaking as a private citizen, my name's Howard Siegel, Catherine Road, Foxborough. I have a bunch of problems with what's going on. First of all, we had a negotiating committee that the selectmen voted on and appointed 4 people to. The question was then posed to town council whether or not that committee was subject to the open meeting law. Town council gave you the opinion that yes, it was. So I think, first of all, undoing that, doing away with that committee just because it's subject to open meeting law sends a bad message. Second of all, I think the fact, going back to the purpose, you got to look at what the purpose of the open meeting law is. That's to protect the citizens of Foxborough or any of the towns in the state so that we know, the citizens know what's going on. The people's business is done publicly in open meetings in front of the people. It's extremely troubling to a citizen to hear the town council, not the selectmen's council, the town council telling you how to form a new group that is exactly the same, but somehow, through sleight of hand, it's no longer subject to the open meeting law so that you can have your negotiating committee and it's not transparent. We, the citizens of Foxborough, are entitled to transparency. I would encourage you strongly to go back, reinstate the negotiating committee, hold your negotiations or discussions in public under the open meeting law. I strongly disagree with the town manager. The open meeting law enables you to discuss negotiating strategies privately in executive session.
You are incorrect.
Okay, I believe you can. I also think you need to understand that you can get an opinion from the Attorney General that this new committee somehow passes muster and is not subject to the open meeting law, even the attorney, first of all, the town council, second of all, the attorney general, are not the final arbitrators on what is subject to the open meeting law in Massachusetts. It's the SJC. And I can tell you now, with 100% certainty, that if a sham committee is put together that is the exact same as the negotiating committee, we'll take it all the way up. This needs to be done in front of the people. This is the people's business. We voted for a transparent government. We want a transparent government.
Either that, we just take all the selectmen off of it. Then you don't have the people represented.
Right.
Thank you.
Then you don't have the people's voted representatives at the negotiating table. So my hands are tied. So let's move on with this. I've had enough.
I think we should just do it publicly.
Yeah.
As best as we
How
can.
about this? It's 10:30.
Table it.
Right now, it's, I'm sorry, it's like 4 o'clock my time. I'm a little jet lagged.
Jim, one last thing, in answer to...
You see the quandary? Let's just speak-
I do, but in answer to the gentleman's issue, transparency is terrific, and if there were a way to be transparent with everybody but the craft organization, that'd be great, but we can't. Transparency means you say everything in public, and the craft organization listens. They're listening now. So that's the conundrum that you're in. You can't do it. We've all been in dozens of negotiations. You simply can't do it that way.
At the end of the day, they're all public meetings. It's executive. The minutes go out eventually at the end, so
Yes.
it's not like information will never go out to the public. I agree with most of what was just said there, except I do agree that these have to be done in executive session. Some of this has to be done in executive session because it's the nature of it.
Yeah.
They're all going to be public, but during the negotiations, it has to be executive. Or we all get around the table and I don't know what happens, but in my experience, the negotiation has to be done small group and then brought out to the public. I don't know how to get there. I'm at a quandary now. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, that's a different problem, Jim. The issue just before you is to appoint Kevin to negotiate on behalf of the town. That's all that's before you. How we deal with the issues of what you're going to discuss as a board, we'll deal with when we get there, but we're not there. All you're doing is authorizing him to negotiate on behalf of the town.
No,
you're
we
not.
didn't say that.
You
Didn't say that.
You're not, and I'd urge you not to do that.
It was said 4 times tonight. I'm just trying to avoid going in a direction.
But
Then
I
let's
want
not.
the vote
Let's
to
not.
do that.
Let's not. Let's just
It
let
was
Kevin
said
do
4
it.
times at the table.
Oh, I know.
So the motion is going to be to appoint one person, and we go on our merry way. The fact is, the first meeting, it's going to explode, and I'm going to be picking up the pieces. The board's going to be picking up the pieces.
What's going to explode?
The fact that there's 2 selectmen in a meeting.
I like Mark's idea. Take yourselves right. Let's take us right out of it and have Dick and Kevin come back and talk to us in executive session for certain things. Otherwise, update us during a public session, and that's it. Just take us selectmen right out of it. It's the only way to do it. I think Mark's right. Well, Mark said that,
and the people in the town, and I said this to Linda. People in the town are not going to be happy about that. And there's no disrespect to anybody, but we are the 5 people that they voted to put in front of this town.
Right, and
they're going to be upset about that more than any open meeting violation.
Mark, but at the end of the day, it's you 5 that make the decisions.
That's right. It comes back to us.
Well, it is.
I hear that all the time, but I'm not there to get the full story. I'm not just like, you know what? It's time to move this, to table it. It's going nowhere, all right? You need to get some opinion from the AG. I withdraw my motion.
He did, though.
No, in writing
he did.
for Lorraine and for Ginny. That's what
They're
they
not
want.
going to do that.
Well, they're going to give
When's the
them
last
something.
time that you've?
They're
Okay.
going to give them something, right?
All right.
One last thing from Kevin, and then we'll close it.
I really think listening to the conversation, listening to Howard, who I think reflects the feelings of a lot of people in town right now, because let's face it, we're not in the average time, and this is not the average issue. Everybody is hypersensitized
That's right.
because of the
It gets
past
fed.
year. I don't think, realistically, there's any real choice but to do this in public, however difficult it is. I just don't think, I think doing it any other way is going to meet with so much suspicion and opposition, even if we get a deal. We're able to put something together. People are going to be resistant and upset about it. So I think it's going to have to be in public. And if that means we're negotiating and there's folks here, hey, let it be.
Well, I don't mind if people are upset about it, but if they're upset with cause because it's not the right way to do it, that's the problem. If we go into executive session and we have the right to do that and they're upset about it, I can deal with that because we're doing something that we're, it's black and white.
It's a simple question. You folks and all other elected folks and all other appointed boards are covered by the open meeting law. You have paid professional staff. Either you send the paid professional staff to do this kind of stuff and report back, or if you're dealing with an issue where you feel strongly that you need to personally be there, then you need to do it personally. And Dick and I won't take any offense by that. We understand. We've been around politics a long time. We get it. So take possession of it. We'll do it in open session. It'll be a little bit harder. But there's pros and cons to each, and frankly, as I'm listening to the conversation, I think we have to come down on the side of public disclosure. It's not going to be easy, but I don't think we can do it any other way. I really don't.
You know, and I said that 4 hours ago, and you know what? I think you're right, Kevin, because you know what? It can be done in the open. You know what? Everybody's saying, I think it can be done in the open. And I think everybody will just have to watch on the crafts group side what they have to say. And you know what? Then we don't have to educate the public afterwards of the whole process. They've been educated through the process. If the AdCom's been educated through the process, and if they haven't, well, that's your problem, because it was aired in the open, reported in the paper, and it was live on TV. So let's just get it going and do that. You have to, Dick, you're going to have to reach out to the craft group and see how they feel about that, and then get back to us by email tomorrow, I guess, or whenever. I'm not saying tomorrow. So
I think the discussion was we're going to take, before we go in that direction, let's table it. We'll talk about it at the next meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I withdrew my motion. Nobody seconded it.
I thought you were telling him to go and
No,
go
you know what I'm saying? That's what I think he would have to do. I'm not saying tomorrow, but
okay.
But I think.
So you want this on the next agenda?
If there's room.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's 7:05.
Kudos.
We're going to have an
Hey,
election
you know what?
before.
Just so the public knows, our council.
What about the special town meeting? What about the special town meeting? Next agenda? I'm not being a Weisenheimer here, but I'm looking at your next agendas, and I'm just going, you got 7 liquor hearings you have to do on top of the normal business. You got to start making some decisions.
Rome.
Do you have to do like an extra meeting on a Wednesday night or something?
We just
meet and continue a session. We'll just post the meeting and just never leave. I'm fine. I'm here anyways.
Okay.
Motion
No, what okay? What are we doing with the special town meeting? I don't know what we're doing.
It's December 11th. Warrant closed
You
the
have
30th.
to make a motion to do that.
Well, as long as it's available, as long as the schools, you were going to check.
Am I out here, gentlemen, ladies?
Yes, goodbye,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Feel the love, baby.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were looking for formal
Well,
motion.
it's required, the date, the time, the place are required by law, and the warrant closing date is required. No other actions are required, but those are
I
required.
think the general, if I can remember, was October 30th was a closing date, December 11th at the high school.
7:30.
At 7:30, depending on the availability. You were going to ask the high school, and then
Right, and if it's not available, well, either way, available or no, I will send an email out to you tomorrow, and if it's not available, I'll just let you know to start thinking about another date. You'll have to do it at the next meeting. And if it is available,
Well, do you want to
then...
pick a second date tonight?
The 12th.
Well...
Yeah, that's a good idea. Motion to make the town meeting at 7:30 p.m., the 11th of December at the high school. If not available, then we would make it for the 12th at 7:30 p.m. at the high school.
Does advisory have anything
No, that's fine.
for that 12th? No, so you don't have a meeting scheduled for the 12th?
Well, they need to be all done by then, hopefully.
It'd be done by
Motion
then.
made, seconded?
No, but I mean, they might have a...
Second by Lorraine. More discussion?
Do you want to put in the warrant article closes?
We'll do that separate.
Or you want to do it separate?
All right, no more discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You got that?
Motion for closing of the warrant article date.
Motion to close the warrant article date October 30th of
All
2012.
their hard stuff is done.
Motion made and seconded. More discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Motion to adjourn, because there's no reason to go into executive session.
Correct.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
And I'll go find out who won the debate.